Wingman Joker, thank you for listening to this channel and please support the channel. Please subscribe. Chapter 171, Players 2. Grandpa Calvin, deciding to take care of his unfilial sons later, left the living room and then quickly headed to his study where he called one of his men. "Roderick, do you have a terminal near you?" he said. "Yes, sir." The man replied. "Do you know about Theodore White?" he asked. "Sir, is this line secure?" Roderick asked. "Yes," Calvin replied. "He is one of the targets for our surveillance. He is very dangerous," Roderick replied. "I already know that. He is on the blue list. I want to know a few things, like his wife and children's names." Calvin said. "Oh, one moment," Roderick said, then quickly proceeded to search for the relevant info. Calvin heard the sound of a keyboard typing from the other side. "Yes, the information is scarce, no official wives list. But the unofficial list of partners contains 3,154 entries. As for his children, let's see: Nick, Nikki, Max, Roxy, Roxanne, Rex, Pan, Mary, Kara. About 317 registered under his name. He might have unregistered ones. Search for Victor, Alice, Mike, and Lara," Calvin asked impatiently. "Oh, 1 second, there is no Lara, but the others exist. That's strange. Some of his children were registered in the system when they reached 17 or 18, Roderick said. "Some hidden powers seem to have rules like that. Now, tell me about the names I asked you about." "Ah yes. First, Alice White, blue list. Mother is Elena. Father is Theodore. Very successful entrepreneur in Black Fountain City. She has some dark activities, but nothing too brazen, just some underground arena. She enjoys extreme sports and likes powerful men. Many young masters around the city might have been castrated by her. And she rarely appears in public. That's about it," he said, swallowing his saliva, apparently looking at her photo. "Second, Mike White, mother, Elena, on the green list. He runs a casino and a few strip clubs in New Lure City, a pervert who likes to collect whores. He also sponsors many orphanages. He drank some water. Lastly, Victor White, mother, Elena, on the red list. He appeared last month in Vane City. He is attending the academy where some people reported him for indecent behavior. And he has many properties around town." Quote, "Wait, red list." Calvin opened his mouth wide. He knew well what this meant. The lists were created to categorize the people that belong to the hidden powers. White meant no power, blue for economic power, green for those who do minor illegal activities, yellow for the media power, red for maniacs and terrorists. "What did he do?" Calvin asked. "Well, his car blew up first. Then a few weeks ago he blew the sports car of his half-brother, Nick, killing him. And a week after that, he threw a grenade on the highway. There were even reports of some weapons transfers to his mansion, and his media company had some bombs purchased for the special effects but they went missing." Roderick explained. Quote, "Did the government do anything?" Calvin asked. "No, apparently, his family took care of it. All charges were dropped," Roderick said. "What about their mother Elena?" he asked. "No info, we only have the name, not even a surname. Do you have any idea?" "No, that's all for now. Take care," Calvin said as he hung up with complex eyes. 30 years ago, when he worked in the Special Forces, they were following a very nefarious international human trafficking organization. They fought with them many times, almost annihilating them completely. Then, they were ordered to back down. No explanations, no questions allowed. They didn't want to, but as soldiers, they could only comply. But he and his team had questions, so they began to do some little investigation. Every time they found a clue, the plot got thicker. They couldn't even imagine that something like this was hidden in plain sight. After going all over the data they had for the third time, they were forced to believe the terrifying truth. The government that ruled the principality was a puppet, controlled by some force from the shadows. Not only their government, all the governments around the world, it seemed. They couldn't believe it at first, but the more they searched the more they confirmed their guesses. Who was this force, and how did they do it? It took them 3 years to know that. The force was a conglomerate of families and hidden powers that slipped inside the system, controlling everything from behind using agents that they put in place using various means. Even the many resolutions and assassinations around the world were their work. The president, the leaders, the army, and police commanders all worked for them. And the criminal organization they were following belonged to one of those as well. They controlled most of the major criminal organizations around the world. His team was shocked, but after seeing the atrocity that gang did, They decided to do something about this. But how? The government refused to act. They were even demoted after asking. So, they formed a secret organization with the goal of collecting information about those guys and then eliminating them. They use the army's and the government's capabilities for this, secretly of course. They have discovered that those forces had lists of names that the government could not interfere with, as if they belonged to a different class. They policed themselves. And from those lists, his team started their search. All went well until they were discovered. No, those guys were aware of them from the start, but they ignored them, as a lion ignores a fly. Calvin doesn't know what exactly happened, but his best friend found something that caused those powers to kill him with most of the team. Their bodies were cut into pieces and then thrown into the sea. He only survived because his friend was smart enough to split his organization into two parts when he created it. One active and one passive. Calvin was one of the leaders of the passive section, which remained hidden, or were they ignored on purpose? He didn't dare to think about that possibility. His friend only left one sentence before he died: "It is a game, players." What does that mean? He didn't know, but it caused his friend's death. He decided to keep a low key and only collect information that is available in the public records. And social media lately, nothing that would make them think of him as a threat. It has been 20 years. His organization has grown a lot, and they recruited many others who also discovered the same truth and wanted to fight it, but still, they didn't dare to make a move. They saw others try and die miserably. Now, his daughter turned out to have married one of those hateful guys. Damn it, he should not have been this stubborn, he shouldn't have let her go back then. Calvin sighed as he left the study. Waking in the corridor, he noticed something. Victor was dragging that grandson-in-law, Archie, somewhere. They headed upstairs. Calvin, despite his age, followed them soundlessly as they entered an abandoned room and closed the door. He eavesdropped on them. But what does the young master want to ask about? Archie asked just as Clavin placed his ear on the wooden door. A man his age shouldn't be doing this, but he couldn't resist. You seemed scared when my sister Alice's name was mentioned. Have you met her before? Victor said arrogantly. I had the honor a few years ago. I might have offended her. It didn't go well. Archie didn't elaborate. She is the decisive type, but she has a good heart, or you would have been dead by now, Victor said, making Archie cough. He didn't agree. Calvin wanted to see Archie's face at that moment, but he didn't dare to move. Now, since you belong to the prince's family's direct line, why are you still not awakened? Victor asked, making Calvin almost gasp. He didn't know that his grandson-in-law was this important. What did he mean by awakened? Awakened? Archie asked. It seemed like he didn't know either. Doesn't your family have a secret ritual? Why didn't you do it? Victor asked, making Calvin listen more attentively as Archie seemed to be thinking of an answer. I made a mistake when I was younger. I was forbidden from attending the ritual. And I was demoted in the family. I can't even attend their meetings. Archie said with clear hatred in his voice. It was Troy who baited you. Didn't he? Victor asked, making Calvin's eyes narrow. Troy Wyron. He is on the blacklist, which was reserved for the worst of the worst. Does the young master know anything? Archie asked. No, just the way your face distorted when I told you his name earlier, seems like I was right. Victor said. Yes, he tricked me into giving away one of the family's heirlooms to a girl I liked, *TCH, Calvin didn't elaborate. Calvin didn't need more info either, it was the classic trick. The pitiful girl asking for help. You are an idiot, Victor said. Calvin outside nodded. I know, you don't have to rub it. Archie replied. No, I mean seriously, my cousin Marley is probably working for someone too. I am not sure yet though, Victor added. Impossible, Archie said, making Calvin nod again. Marley might be a slut, but she is a good girl. How did you meet her? She wanted help. No, you won't fall for the same trap twice. Oh, you must have been in trouble, and she saved your life, Victor said. Archie didn't reply. Victor was telling the truth. Don't worry, now that she knows your status she would never sell you off, not cheaply anyway. Victor said. Archie didn't reply. I am not telling you to abandon her, she might have some feelings for you after all, she is still young. Kids nowadays don't know what's good for them. Victor said, making his grandfather want to slap him. How old are you to say that Marley is young? She is older than you. What then? Archie asked. He seemed to be beginning to believe Victor. She is my cousin, after all, and I don't want her to be hurt. So, You just need to be more vigilant around her and only feed her select information, you know what I mean. I don't hire idiots. You see, I am planning to let you work for me, are you interested? Victor asked. You want to use me to get at Troy? What do I get in return? Archie asked. Yes, now, a few of Troy's men attacked my mansion yesterday. He needs punishment, and I decided that he is no longer fit to be an heir to the prince's seat. Do you want his place? Victor asked casually as if he was replacing a chair in a dining room. Yes, Archie replied immediately, with clear anticipation in his voice. But in return, I will need your full obedience, you would be my dog. The Wyron family would buy my B*TCH. Victor said plainly. I am willing. Archie didn't hesitate, making both Calvin and Victor a little surprised. Troy did something else other than taking your position in the family, didn't he? Victor asked calmly. He killed my sister. He doesn't know that I know. Archie didn't say any more. Oh, well, that's your business. Anyway, I have to say this. If you have any thoughts of betrayal, you better back down now, or your end would be miserable. This is your last chance to back down. Once I speak my next word, there will be no way back. Victor warned again. I am willing, Archie said with firm words as Calvin pressed his ear harder on the wooden door. Fine then. First, we need to make you a player. Victor said, sending a shiver in Calvin's back. A player? A player? Archie asked. Yes, your cousin should be a semi-player, your grandfather and father the same, you will be better than them. But you will have to keep everything a secret though. If anything I will tell you now gets leaked, not only you, your entire bloodline might get executed. Victor said. Calvin had the illusion that Victor was talking to him. Yes, what is a player? Archie asked. I will only tell you the outline, but, simply, we live in a world that has game-like rules, and people who can use those rules are called players. Like video games, Victor said. Ah, Archie didn't say anything. Then he yelled, you are flying. Calvin thought that they were scamming him for a minute there. He really wanted to open the door and have a look. He better not do that. Yes, some of us can fly, shoot fire, and teleport, like superheroes. Our villains, mostly supernatural skills, and almost every awakened have superhuman strength. Your family are only semi-players. They are slightly more powerful than normal humans and they can only use about 3 or 2 skills per person. If you become a full player, you would be far stronger than any of them. You would be able to level up. They can't do that. That's all I can tell you for now. Victor said. How can I become a player? Archie asked with anticipation. Calvin, who was in a little disbelief, listened. When he fought with that gang in the past, all of them were inhumanly strong, and one of the men breathed fire, he remembers that. But he thought it was some kind of an exotic weapon back then. What if it weren't? Impossible. At this moment he remembered many things. Becoming a player is very hard. Your family has been trying for centuries. But I happen to have a method, but it depends. Can you fight? Victor asked. Yes, I can use a spear. Family training, Archie said. Then you would be fine. There is a risk of death. But this is the fastest way. Victor said, or you can wait for a year or 2, I might find you a better method. No, grandfather might abdicate this winter, and Troy is the only candidate. Archie refused. Oh, then first, take this, Victor said. A contract? How did you get it from thin air? A skill? Archie asked. Yes, this is our agreement. You will be my slave and not tell anyone about my secrets, and in return, I would help you get rid of your cousin Troy and then help you take his seat. Victor said. How do I sign it? There is no place, Archie asked, not caring about being a slave. You can't sign it, only players can. After becoming a player, drop some of your blood on it. Remember, after becoming a player. Victor said, if you leave that place without signing it, I will make sure you die like a dog. He added. I understand, Archie said, as a paper folding sound could be heard. Then go there. This is called Dungeon Awakening, Victor said, apparently giving a paper to Archie. They will give you what you need and tell you what to do. He said. There was silence after that. What are you waiting for? The ritual can only be done once and it would start by sunrise. You need at least 6 hours to get there. Victor scolded again, making Archie run out of the room and then leave the house without even saying goodbye to his beloved. Calvin was not in the corridor. He had successfully returned to his study just in time. He was breathing rapidly. Grandpa, you also better keep this a secret. Calvin, who sighed in relief as he closed the door, heard a voice from behind him, scaring the sh*t out of him. It was Victor. When did he get there? His instinct as a soldier told him one thing. His grandson was dangerous, too dangerous. He remembered Red List. Is it true? He asked. Found a seat, he was too old for running. Every bit of it. Victor said, didn't you see the mantises in the news? That guy who fought them was a player. Victor added, making his grandfather opened his eyes wide. Wasn't it an army experience? Some people even said that it was aliens. If that guy is a player, what is the mantis? Calvin asked. A monster from another world, Victor said briefly. Anyway, the reason I let you hear my conversation with Archie is for your benefit. You belong to Sunrise, right? Victor asked, making his grandfather sweat, but he did not answer. Anyway, the things you heard will be leaked to the public very soon. And the situation in the world is about to change, so the hidden powers would probably start to search for the leaker. So you better stick your head in the sand and keep your little organization hidden for now and focus on information gathering. That's all I can tell you. You might be able to be more active later, Victor said as he headed to the study's door, making Calvin sweat more. Not knowing what to think, he better calls his partners and ask, as he was just one of 7 leaders of the organization, but if those guys decided to eliminate them, they wouldn't be able to resist. Oh, Victor stopped leaving the room as if he remembered something. Then he threw a bottle of some liquid to his grandfather, who caught it in midair. Drink this now, Victor ordered. Calvin hesitated. If I wanted to kill you, you would have already been dead, Victor said. Calvin didn't move, he just eyed the bottle. I have to do it myself, it seems, Victor said as he disappeared. In the next moment, Calvin felt like the bottle in his hand was forcibly moved and pushed into his mouth. He didn't dare to swallow, but a light press on his throat forced him to. You need to be more trusting, you know. I am your grandson, Victor said as he materialized in front of his grandfather. Calvin opened his eyes in shock and then felt as if his body was getting rejuvenated. Every old injury in his body was healing. His back no longer ached, and his joints were more flexible. Even his asterisk was working again for the first time in 10 years. What is this drink? This is my meeting gift to you. A healing elixir, Victor said as he headed to the door. Keep it a secret, people with loose mouths tend to lose their heads a lot around here, he added with an innocent smile that sent shivers in his grandfather's back. What is a player? Calvin managed to ask just as Victor reached the door. Oh, I already explained it to Archie, Victor said, then stuck his head with his hand. Ah. Sometimes I forget how old some people are, sorry. Well, I noticed you have a new box Station 7 in the living room. Victor said, oh that thing, your uncles bought it to let their children be less noisy when they visit here. They are still noisy. Why are you asking? Calvin asked with annoyance. Did this bastard just call him old? Try playing a game called World of Truth, I am sure it is already installed. You will know what a player means, it was made to teach potential players about the rules, Victor said with a smile as he stepped out of the room, leaving his confused grandfather. Chapter 172, Players 3. In his past life, Victor only realized that his grandfather belonged to a secret organization after many years when he was tasked to rearrange some old reports in the Royal Library. There he was flabbergasted to see his grandfather in a report about the founders of Sunrise. One of the most amazing spy organizations after the reckoning. Too bad his grandfather died long before realizing how amazing his life's work was. Now, he just needs to wait for his grandfather to swallow the new info, then he would be ready to cooperate. Now, Sunrise is just the seed of what it would become in the future. Their information is now messy and unorganized, but unlike the family and the family's info, they are uncensored, revealing things that others might be trying to hide. As a first step, Victor intends to trade some info about the families in exchange for granting him access to their database. After that, he would build a cooperative relationship between Sunrise and his own team. This would make things much easier, and save him a ton of time. Now hopefully, his grandfather would act as he expected. Calvin in his past life died of some chronic sickness, or that was the official narrative. He suspects it was a slow-acting poison. Now that he had given him that potion, Calvin not only would be cured of any hidden poisons, but he would also become younger slowly, not only in his body but also in his mind. That thing was a life extension potion that was created by combining some very normal herbs with a healing potion. It extends life for 100 years for only one time. The next time he takes it, it would be 10 years, then 1 year, then a day, then an hour. This thing was precious, even after the reckoning when people's life expectancy skyrocketed. Victor discovered the recipe in the royal library, inside the cover of an old book that was taken from some unorthodox sect that did human experiments. He quickly took it to one of his close alchemist friends who knew a lot about medicine, and with her help, they developed this potion. Too bad it was useless once someone used it multiple times, and could only be used to cure erectile dysfunction after that. Will Grandma be able to satisfy him tonight though? Victor asked himself with a smirk as he walked into the corridor. Probably not. Lily, who materialized behind him, stated with a smile that her veil hid. This girl's mind was getting filthier by the moment. Was this his or Margaret's influence? Are you worried about your sisters, attempting their first raid alone? He asked when he noticed her haggard eyes. Yes, she said, her veil hiding her true emotions. I understand, but the spies around the mansion are either dead or have already followed us here. So we can't waste this opportunity, he said with a sigh as he returned to the living room. He found that the room was a little crowded. His uncles, their wives, and children had all gathered here, chatting with Elena and checking the gifts. Victor sighed as he looked around checking everyone. First his Aunt Olga. Her husband had passed away a few years ago. She had 2 daughters, Marley whom he met earlier, and Miley who was about Lara's age. They were both here. After that his first uncle Bob. An idiot who thinks he is smart. He had 2 sons and a daughter. Bob Jr., about Victor's age, and the youngest Rob. The daughter's name was Katia, Victor's sluttiest cousin. She was now helping her aunt appraise the beauty products in the second bag. His second uncle Carl was standing to the side smoking a cigarette. Among his brothers, he was the one who treated Victor the best in his past life. He was not that influential in the family though, as his wife died young, and he refused to marry again. So he had no children, and in a patriarchal family, this was a death sentence. His third uncle, Larry. A snake. He married 3 years ago. His wife was holding a child to the side. She is a snake too. The child would also be a snake when he grows up. Victor ignored everyone as he entered quietly and slid into his seat. He really wanted to be with the girls raiding the dungeon right now, but he had the important task of luring the agents away. His phone rang. Young master. This is Hilda. Miss Mira has just gotten here. She was delayed by a manager at the filming set. She said, "Oh, it is okay, I already sent Alpha a message to delay the raid for a few hours, take Mira and follow them immediately, and tell Arya to fire that manager and ban him forever." He said, "Understood," Hilda said as she hung up. With this, all of his girls should become players. Hopefully, no one would get hurt in the dungeon. Victor relaxed in his seat and began to enjoy Lily's shoulder massage as he listened to the conversations around him. Ellipsis. Elena, why don't you have a maid like your children? His grandmother, who noticed Lily massaging Victor's shoulders, asked Elena who was sitting by her side. I had one. Yesterday some thieves broke into the mansion. She got injured, Elena said with a sigh. Poor Rose only worked for her for 2 years. She didn't like her, but didn't hate her either. She didn't deserve to die young. Oh, too bad, Willow said, not entirely believing her daughter. Doesn't your mansion have guards? Ah, I am staying in my son Victor's mansion, and he has guards. They got the intruders. She said. Oh, her mother said, glancing at Victor and wondering how she could ask about his mansion. Victor decided to ignore her for now. He lazily looked around the room and noticed that his young cousins Rob and Miley were busy arguing with Lara about something. They were bragging, calling Elena a coward for running away. Lara was about to burst into tears. And just as he expected, Elle valiantly came to her rescue, educating his cousins on the use of some very vulgar words that no children should hear before they turn 25. His cousins froze, then after a brief explanation from Elle, they burst into tears and ran to their mommies, who were too busy dividing the spoils to take care of their children, who began to ask about some words that they didn't know the meaning of. That's why he wanted Elle to be next to Lara. To teach her how to stand up for herself, not the vulgar words. He would have to warn her about those later. Ah, what a wonderful family atmosphere, he said softly, when an exclaiming voice sounded in the room. Grandpa, what are you doing? It was Victor's cousin, Bob J, who had just discovered that his esteemed grandfather had just sneaked soundlessly into the room, and was trying futilely to start the box Station 7 in the corner. That's not your damn business, Calvin scolded as he scowled, then fumbled a little with his gamepad. How the hell do you start this thing? Calvin said as the room froze. Here Grandpa. Lara, who really wanted to act as a good girl in front of her grandfather, ran to his side and began to help him navigate around. How do you launch World of Truth? He asked. Like this. She began to show him, as Rob and Miley also clamored around him to watch the fun. You play this a lot? Calvin asked Lara. Yes, my esteemed father only allows me to play this game. She said, pouting a little. Now, choose your character. The family was surprised, but not daring to ask any questions. They decided to treat this as just Calvin wanting to bond with his grandchildren. Victor chuckled silently and relaxed. His grandfather couldn't hold himself until later. Elena. 10 minutes later, Calvin's voice startled the room. Yes, father. She asked her father, who didn't lift his eyes from the screen. He was wandering aimlessly around the starter town. Will you return to Vane City tonight? He asked. No, I was planning on staying in a hotel. I wanted to stay here for a couple of days to see some friends and show Victor and Lara around town. She said. Then stay here, we have many empty rooms in the mansion, Calvin said, making her smile. But father, Bob wanted to say something. Don't distract me, damn it, now the other one. AF*C King Goblin. Quote. Calvin yelled at his son as he professionally launched a fireball. Bob looked at his brother Larry, who shrugged. There is nothing they can do now. Their father was as stubborn as a mule once he decided something. After 2 hours, the appraising of the spoils was finished and the family was sitting at the dinner table. Even Calvin, who was reluctant to leave his game, but managed to do so after Lara repeatedly promised him that his game would be autosaved, unlike the old games where you would lose all your progress every time your younger brother tripped with the wire. Sitting at the dining table, Elena smiled. Her father had ordered that the best food should be served as a celebration for her return home. He had completely forgiven her. The family was making some small talk during the meal when Victor's cousin Katia suddenly turned to him. Cousin, I heard from my aunt that you work for your father's company in Vane City. She asked, making Victor glance at his mother. She had returned to her dirty habit of staying low-key. That's true to a point. My father gave me some business to manage. Victor answered casually. Oh, well, my boyfriend has several companies in Vane City. If you want any help, feel free to ask. She began to brag. Really? What companies? He asked. Do you know the Pyro White conglomerate? My boyfriend's father is the CEO. She said proudly, causing both her grandfather and grandmother to bite their tongues at the same time. Really? My father owns 97% of the Pyro White conglomerate. What a coincidence, he said. You think I am kidding? How dare you make fun of me and my boyfriend, she snapped. Katia, her grandmother, wanted to intervene and make sure which one was telling the truth when Katia's phone rang. Katia quickly answered. Hi, honey. Yes, I am at my hometown, in my grandfather's house having dinner. Really? Of course, how about you do it here? My father runs the Golden Hotel, we have a grand hall overlooking the waterfall. It would be perfect for that. Come on, honey, I really need this. And the trip here would give you more time to get to know him. She added with a soft voice. Exactly. No, well, yes, my cousin here was making fun of me, doubting your identity. I know, right? Quote. Thank you, I love you, moi, moi moi. She hung up and turned to her father, Bob. Father, my boyfriend Lucas will be hosting a big VIP tomorrow night. I just convinced him to use our hotel. She said, earning a nod from her father and her grandfather. Carla was a little slut, no, troublesome like her grandmother, but she had some sense of business. This is your last chance to stop your bragging. You might be rich, but you must know your place. She said spitefully to Victor, who was wondering where he heard the name, Lucas, before. I was telling the truth. He said, we will see tomorrow how long you can keep pretending. She said, those who knew the truth, decided to stay out of this, every one of them had some hidden agenda. Elena wanted her son to slap her brother's face. Calvin wanted to see how Victor will handle this, and Willow wanted to know who was lying. Marley decided to wait and see the mega face slapping tomorrow. A man that her boyfriend grovels to was not a liar. When did her boyfriend leave? Why didn't he say anything? We will have to get ready for tomorrow then, Bob said with a bragging smile, changing the subject. Yes, his brother nodded while wondering if there would be a chance for him to meet that VIP. Both of them had thought that Victor was bragging. They had already met Katia's boyfriend, and he was really the son of the CEO of Pyro White. There is no denying that. Mother, I plan to stay at a hotel tonight. Victor suddenly said. Why? His mother asked. We already have a reservation, and I might need to run some errands. He said, earning himself a disdainful look from his cousins who considered him a liar. Oh, will you return here tomorrow? His mother asked, not very pleased. Of course, I will leave Lily here with you. He added, I will just take Alex with me, he can't sleep in the car. He said casually, you are going to a brothel, aren't you? Calvin suddenly asked, causing everyone to look at Victor. Waterfall Town is known not only for its scenery but for its brothels too. I will not answer that, he said casually as he set down his fork with a grin that Lily, who was standing behind him, did not like. Neither did his mother. Father, I think the children were punished enough, Uncle Carl suddenly said after a cough, changing the subject. Fine, Calvin said as he eyed Victor while his son hurried outdoors. The children, Rob, Miley, Lara, and Elle, were doing push-ups on the lawn outside. Earlier, Calvin was enjoying his game when he heard his grandchildren uttering some very filthy curses. They reminded him of the words his drill sergeant used on him in his younger days in the army. So after knowing what new vocabulary his grandchildren have learned, he ordered them to do 50 push-ups each as a punishment before having dinner. Outside, the spoiled kids had already reached their limit after a couple of minutes. They didn't dare to disobey their grandfather though. Only Lara was still relaxed. Only 50. Her brother Rex usually punishes her to do 150. Chapter 173, Watch and Learn. After watching Victor leave in his car, Calvin turned to look at his two sons Bob and Larry, who were standing respectfully in the study with their heads down. I expected better of both of you, he said sternly. Father, we just lost track of our sister, and we didn't want to make you upset. We expected to find her really quickly. You didn't, Calvin said coldly. Don't think that I am too old and senile to see. It was my fault for trusting you. She is your damn sister, damn it. He scolded. If anything bad really happened to her, he would have killed those two. It all turned out okay, didn't it? Larry said hesitatingly, earning himself a glare from his father. Listen carefully, you two. I don't care what filthy games you two have in your minds. Don't try anything again, or I swear I will kick you out of the family. Calvin said, you should be thankful that nothing too bad happened to her, and that I am in a very good mood today, so your punishment would be light. He said as he took a whip and a few other things from under the desk. Father, your back injury, you shouldn't overtax yourself. Bob said as his legs shook. The last time he suffered this punishment was 20 years ago when his father caught him smoking some weed from Calvin's own secret stash. Wait, Father, why is there a leash and a collar? Larry asked nervously. Oops, I took them out of habit. These are not for you, he said with some embarrassment, putting them away, then changing his mind and placing them in a nearby drawer. Don't worry, I feel great today, and I have been looking for a chance to flex my muscles since the afternoon. Now, both of you take off your shirts and put your palms on the wall, it's been a while. Calvin said as he flexed his muscles. Let's start with 10, if I am not satisfied, we will try another 10. He pondered, and like this, the children who were playing video games downstairs, and those in the neighboring villas, began to wonder if Calvin's house was haunted. Where to, young master? Alex asked, wondering why did Victor leave at this hour, and without Lily. That's too unusual. Follow the road until you reach an establishment with a sign in the shape of big pink lips inside a golden triangle, Victor said as closed his eyes, checking on his blood slaves situations. Tom was enjoying his youth in his house as usual, with 3 girls this time. Victor quickly issued him a mission to make them 7 girls, let him have no energy for a couple of days. Alex was driving the car to her doom. Carry on. Alpha was getting the girls ready for the dungeon raid. She gets a little too domineering sometimes. Rita was still learning the soul fighting arts. She was getting better, still naked though. Lynn was having another family meeting to discuss the marriage proposal. They were wondering if it was worth it to sacrifice Lynn at this stage. They seemed to be in favor of that. All were advancing according to his plan. With this, Victor relaxed his body and mind. Young master, is this the place you wanted to go to? Alex's voice asked hesitatingly, waking Victor up. Yes, Victor said as he stretched his arms. This was a good nap. Too bad Lily was not here, but he can't bring her with him to a brothel, can he? Maybe her hidden bodyguards would lose their minds. Stepping out of the car and looking around at the lavish golden fountains with statues of naked women, Victor nodded in satisfaction. That's the place. Come on, Alex, you will go with me to enjoy the best night of your life. This is the biggest and the most luxurious brothel in all of the principality, one of the top 20 around the world. Victor said with a broad smile, causing Alex to freeze. I am okay right here, young master. I will stay in the car. Alex said decisively. They have men if you prefer, both straight and gay, Victor clarified. I am fine here, young master, Alex repeated. Come with me, this is an order. Victor coldly said at last. Alex hesitated, then dispelling the shaking in her hand she stepped out of the car with a really frightened look. She can't disobey him. Listen carefully, Victor's whispering in a serious voice, making her calm down. This is training for a critical future mission. You have to watch carefully how I act and move here, as you will have to impersonate me later, understood? Victor asked seriously, making Alex nod. She was still hesitant, but she now knew why Victor brought her here. Wait, why would she be impersonating him in a brothel? What would he make her do? Victor didn't give her an answer, he just strode in as the guards opened the doors respectfully for him. Although this place needed an invitation and a membership to attend, people who drove a Weiss Steed car would easily get those things inside. Can I help you, young master? A semi-dressed receptionist asked. Although she was a little old, she lost none of her glamour. I need girls, and I heard you had a room submerged in the lake where you can see the waterfall like no other. I want to enjoy it there, I want an unforgettable experience. He said as he licked his lips. Young master, can I see your membership card? She asked him politely. The room's availability was by membership rank. What membership card? He asked. Ah, young master, this place requires a membership, she said coldly. Get me your manager, someone with a high enough rank. Victor said. The woman hesitated, but looking at a guard to the side who pointed at the car out of the window, she quickly used her phone to make a call. As Victor took a look at the lavish paintings of naked women in the hallway, he made sure to look at every one of them, savoring them in his eyes. He even made some indecent sounds using his tongue. Young master, can I ask for your esteemed name? A fat short man with a bald head ran out of a side room and asked after he bowed respectfully. The one and only, Victor von Weiss, Victor said proudly as he took out his token and presented it to the fat man, who quickly returned it to him after glancing at it. Not daring to hold it in his filthy hands for too long. Why are you not fulfilling the young master's command yet? He turned and yelled at the woman, who shook a little and then quickly played along. Ah, sorry, Manager Wong, I didn't recognize our esteemed guest, I don't deserve my eyes. She said begged-fully. It's fine, don't do it again. Now escort the young master to the finest room, the man said. Manager Wong, he requested the waterfall hall, it was reserved for young Master Chen. She said. Is young Master Chen here yet? Wong asked with a frown. No, not yet, she said. Then give the room to young Master Victor. When young Master Chen comes, send him to me. He said after hesitating for a moment. This one understands. This way, young master. The woman nodded and then quickly guided Victor to an elevator to the side. Let's go, he gestured to Alex as he swaggered to the elevator proudly, making sure to check every inch of the receptionist's curvy body. Would the young master want to reserve a room for your assistant? She asked, making Alex avert her eyes in embarrassment. No, I want him to watch and learn, and he will enjoy my leftovers. Victor said proudly, making Alex frown a little. She knew well that Victor can't touch women. What leftovers? Isn't he leaving the entire meal for her? Why is she thinking about this? How many girls does the young master exactly have in mind? The receptionist asked with a smile, seemingly enjoying his dirty eyes on her. I will need 10, the sluttiest and prettiest 10 you have. They must be very experienced though. This young master wants to enjoy his time, not teach some noobs. He stated. They must not be less than Toms. That would be easily arranged, young master. She said as she used her phone to write some words and send them while hiding her sarcastic laugh. All young masters who come here bragging about their manhood end up lasting only 5 minutes under the girl's professional, AHM, hands. After walking inside a water tunnel that ran under the lake and then going up, Victor and Alex entered a lavish room that had a glass wall that overlooked the amazing view of a waterfall hitting the lake's surface. Whoever designed this was a genius. The room had a gilded ceiling and a floor that was covered with a red carpet leading to a huge heart-shaped soft bed. Our grandest room, this room is fully secure and sound isolated. Overlooking the best view in town. The receptionist said proudly. Amazing. Quote. Alex couldn't help but exclaim as she looked around. Wait until you see the girls, Victor said, making her return to her miserable reality. The girls were not late, as 1 minute later 10 slutty pretty girls in very scant clothing and professional makeup entered the room one by one and bowed to Victor and Alex, flashing their huge busts. Is the young master satisfied with our goods? The receptionist asked flirtingly. 100%, he said as he began to inspect the girls while drooling on the velveted floor. Does the young master need anything else? Any props? The receptionist chuckled charmingly and asked. No, just don't let any idiot interrupt. He swallowed then said, not lifting his eyes from the girls, he was even moving his fingers lewdly. Even Alex was a little disgusted of him. Don't worry young master, the door has an auto lock, it can only be opened from the inside, or with a special key that only the manager has. If the young master needs anything, feel free to use the interphone to the side, she said as she exited the room elegantly and closed the door behind her, not letting anyone see the disgusted look on her face. Victor smiled lewdly and looked at the girls, ignoring Alex who was shaking a little to the side. All of you, strip and climb on the bed, make sure to do it slowly, he said, as he secretly pressed a button on his phone as the girls smiled as they were told. It took his phone a minute to scan the room. No cameras or recording devices were detected. He expected none, as this establishment is for the cream of the crop. But he can't be too sure. He slowly looked at the girls who were relaxing on the bed, stretching their curvy legs while wondering how long this one will last. They didn't have to wonder a lot, as they were in a deep sleep a moment later. Alex was surprised as he noticed the gas in the room. Eat this quickly. This one works slower on players. Victor, whose expression returned to normal, gave Alex a pill and ate one himself. Then he activated 2 talismans, just to make sure the room was secure. Is this the same one we used at the brothel back then? Alex asked as she checked the snoring girls. An enhanced version with an extra ingredient. Did you learn how to act like me? Victor asked, totally ignoring the sleeping naked girls on the bed. Somewhat, young master, she replied. Good. Now, I will have to go out and enter the lake to search for something that I missed a long time ago. It will take me an hour or so to return. While I am away, make sure to satisfy every one of these sluts, Victor said, making Alex freeze. Satisfy, as a man? She asked a minute later as Victor changed into some swimming clothes. What else? Victor asked as he began to do warm-ups. But, they are asleep, young master. How can I? Alex said after some hesitation. You are AF*C king man aren't you? They will feel it in the morning. They might be loose, but they are professionals. Victor scolded. But young master, Alex wanted to complain. Do you want my reputation to be tarnished? What would people say if I can't even complete this simple job? Victor asked angrily. If you are not man enough for that, you are not suitable to be my bodyguard. I might even sell you to this brothel. Victor scolded as he used his shadow-shifting ring to pass through the glass wall and dive into the lake. Alex froze. She wanted to complain more, but Victor was no longer there. Will he really sell her? She shivered. Looking at the sleeping girls, she felt disgusted. They reminded her of Margaret. What would that slut do if she were in her place? The dirtiest thing possible. Suddenly Alex had an idea. She took out a spare spear from her storage ring. The spear's shaft would work. She would give it to Margaret as a gift after that. Chapter 174, Players 4. Ruby was tending to the campfire while looking at the old factory building behind her with complex eyes. Neither her nor her sisters know what their mistress Alpha's thoughts are. Why did she bring them here? After saving them from that brothel that day, their new life began. Ruby touched her forearm, where a tattoo of a strange faint symbol was drawn on their first night. Mistress Alpha had told them that the tattoo meant that they would die if they betrayed her. Ruby didn't know if she could believe that, but Mistress Alpha can get very scary when she gets angry. Other than the mistress's random outbursts, life on the base was not that bad. They could eat their fill, wash and have some fun, but the training was true hell. They were made to run for half an hour every morning, then train with wooden swords and spears after that. In the afternoon, they were expected to study reading, writing, and arithmetic. At night they studied music, art, and dancing. It was like a university camp on steroids. For the last 2 days, they have been teaching them about first aid and dealing with snakes though. The teachers were some experts who were kidnapped by their mistress. At first, they were annoyed, but after knowing how much the mistress would pay them, their smiles reached their ears. They could only leave after finishing their course and Alpha approving of the results, so those guys were very professional and strict. Ruby didn't hate it. She always loved to learn when she was in the orphanage, before those bastards sold her, but this lifestyle was taking a toll on her body. She began to notice some black lines under her eyes. Her sisters were the same. This morning, while they were doing their morning exercise, their mistress returned to the base with 2 buses. She made them board them and then brought them here without an explanation. Was she going to be sold again? Probably not. As they were made to wear these strange clothes and long boots, are they going to explore some jungle? Ruby eyed the bald men guarding the factory. They were not wearing anything like that. They probably were not coming with them. That made her feel a little relieved as those men looked similar to the gangsters who bought them from the orphanage that day. Although those guys were very friendly and polite to them, it made her a little uncomfortable. As they called them, the young master's girls, was he the same young master Mistress Margaret mentioned that day? The one that Mistress Alpha would punish them if they asked about? She sighed. What is this place anyway? Looking around, she noticed that there was a lot of construction work being done around here. A lot of pits were being dug and a lot of cement bags were stacked to the side, but there were no workers. Were they on vacation today? There were other girls here too, dressed in black and wearing masks with demon faces. Those girls felt dangerous, so she and her sisters didn't dare to approach them. It was half an hour later when Mistress Alpha returned with a few more girls and a young man who had a black eye. Was he the fabled young master? He didn't seem impressive at all. Listen all of you, this is Archie, he will be our guest. No, he is the young master's new pet. Treat him like a punching bag if he asks any unnecessary questions, she said, making the young man shiver and involuntarily touch his blackened eye. Ruby suppressed her giggle. Her mistress was as violent as ever. She looked at the pretty girls who walked with the Alpha. Ah, Mistress Margaret was with them too. In addition to her, there were some pretty twin girls. Is that the actress Mira, or does she just look like her? And that is Robin, Ruby yelled as she saw a familiar face, who looked at her back with astonishment, making Alpha look at her with a frown. Ruby. Robin smiled broadly as she ran to Ruby and hugged her tightly. They knew each other from the orphanage for about 2 months and were together when they were sold to that gang. As the youngest girls around of similar ages, they became sisters. Then that evil fat man Baron came and took Robin away. She thought she was dead, or worse. Theta, do you know her? Alpha asked. Yes, she is like a sister to me. Can I have her? Theta asked in a cheerful tone. As if she was asking for a kitten. Ruby didn't mind. You will have to ask the young master, but I don't mind, Alpha said with a sigh as she eyed her a bit, then looked at the girls gathering around. Robin, how have you been? Ruby whispered as she got near Theta. Call me Theta, I have been fine. The young master saved my life, and now I work for him, she said proudly. The young master, I haven't met him yet, she said while wondering why her best friend changed her name. It sounded mysterious. Too bad he is not with us today. He is the coolest person in the world, Theta said with stars in her eyes. Ruby shook her head. How can a man be good? They were all evil perverts. Sister, do you know why we are here? Ruby asked suddenly. Yes, don't worry, if you follow Big Sister Alpha's commands, you will survive, Theta said, sending a shiver in Ruby's back. Survive? Survive what? Listen up everyone, Alpha shouted as the girls stood around her. That guy Archie was there too. You have been training for the last 2 weeks for this day. Your training is barely enough, but we only have this window, so you better listen closely and be careful. Each one of you will be given a bag. It contains food, a sleeping bag, and many necessities to survive, she said as a few bald men started moving around them, giving them a bulky camping bag. Theta didn't get one. We are going to explore a cave that has poisonous snakes, Alpha added, making the girls involuntary yelp. Whoever backs down will be killed by me, she added softly, making them shut up. You have been training in the use of weapons, so you can defend yourself. Each one of you would get a spear and a dagger, she said as the bald men proceeded to give them the weapons. Still, Theta got none. One more thing, strange things will happen in the cave, so if you find yourself overwhelmed, hide and wait. In no more than 3 days you will be able to leave naturally. And if you get useful skills, try experimenting with them. And if you killed some snake and it dropped a gem, you may collect it. I will give you rewards based on how many you got after exiting. But don't risk your lives for that, she warned. What did she mean by skills? Gems? No one dared to ask. Now let's get moving, she said, making the girls head to the bus. Ruby sighed as she sat in her seat. She was really nervous now. Don't worry, as long as you survive for 3 days, your life will change for the better. Believe me, Theta, who sat beside her, said with a smile. I doubt that, Ruby said softly. As she looked around at her nervous sisters, that guy chose to sit next to the girl that looked like Mira. Is that Mira the actress? She asked Robin. Theta. Yes, she is the young master's maid. I was surprised too when I met her a few days ago, Theta said. I should probably get her autograph, she added. Ruby looked back at Mira to find out that the occupant of the seat next to her had changed to Mistress Margaret. That guy Archie was holding his crotch while shivering on the floor. He had the look of someone regretting his life's decisions. What are skills? She asked. Oh, you will get those once you are inside. Just be cool with it. You will not be dreaming. Theta said mysteriously, revealing nothing more. The bus started soon and drove them across a mountainous road, then stopped after a while as it could not go up any longer. They had to walk in the woods for another half an hour to reach a valley that looked magnificent in the sunset. They quickly noticed a rope ladder going down into a safety net of many layers that were stretched below the valley's face. The cave is below, come with me. Alpha said, making the girls go one by one. When Ruby reached the net, she stood on it with some difficulty and looked around. There was no cave, just a big boulder that had many beautiful flowers poking from its sides. It took everyone another 15 minutes to get ready. The net was amazing, it could withstand the weight of everyone without even stretching a bit. Now, all of you. Once inside, you will be stuck for 3 days at least. In your bag, there is a mushroom. Take it out and eat it. Alpha commanded, making the girls quickly find it and eat it, then regret it. If any of you spit it, I will shove it down your ass. This thing will relieve your hunger for some time. If you get hungry inside, eat another. And don't eat any random sh*t that you find inside, it might be poisonous. Alpha threatened, making the girls swallow the mushroom with difficulty. Ruby could see that Archie was struggling too. Theta didn't, she just took out a piece of candy and ate it after the mushroom, then offered one to Ruby, who gladly put it in her mouth. This thing tasted like sh*t, no sh*t tasted a little better. Don't ask why, she knew. Okay, now, everyone, there is a snake repellent spray in your bag, quickly spray each other. Alpha commanded, the girls complied, not daring to slack off. Next, make sure you hold your bag tight, and if you spot snakes and get bit, don't panic. Just run away and take the antidote in the bag, and if you find a big door or a big entrance inside, don't enter it if you don't wish to die, just wait beside it. I hope we all survive. She said, I will leave the outside protection to you, Alpha told 2 bald men who were helping around. Don't worry, mistress, one of them said as they began to climb up while giving the girls some envious looks. Theta, the young master ordered that we should strike at this together. Alpha said, making Theta hold the large pickaxe with her. Get ready, we will be sucked in. Be ready to become players. Alpha warned as she approached the boulder with Theta and struck it with the pickaxe. The world turned blue. Chapter 175, It's a Trap. Victor squinted his eyes and looked around carefully after entering the cold lake water. Although the darkness was surrounding everywhere around him, he could see dimly due to his powers as a player. This was not a good place to use a flashlight. Looking up, he could see the water falling from above and hitting the lake, creating a strange mist that flowed with the wind. He had to confess, this brothel had a very good location. He only entered it only once in his past life. To deliver some pizza. Now is not the time for memories. He dived underwater and began to head somewhere specific, toward the waterfall, behind it. Any normal human would have been dead after withstanding the falling water's pressure and debris. He would have been swept away and crashed on one of the rocks that rose from the lake's floor, like the teeth of some vicious monster. No real monster existed, he checked that thoroughly. It was just a natural phenomenon. Swimming in a way that would render any Olympic swimmer speechless, Victor reached the bottom of the waterfall 15 minutes later. Looking up, he could see a normal concave cliff. He took a breath and began to climb upward using a climbing axe. His only light was a dim flashlight mounted on his head. This place was too dark, even for him on this moonless night. 10 minutes later, he reached the place he was looking for, a small cave entrance. It was so small that no one could notice it from the ground. On top of that, it was so small he would have to bend in an unnatural way to enter. He found it at last. Taking a deep breath, and adjusting the dagger in his hand, then crawled inside. Hoping that it was not empty. Victor didn't know exactly what he was looking for, but his hunch was telling him this place had something. Places with strange phenomena like this one always held an otherworldly secret, like the Misty Mountain in which he found the Goblin Dungeon. In his past life, after becoming a full player, after the reckoning, he came here wanting to take revenge on his mother's family. They were all dead. This place was ravaged after a dark dragon liked this place and decided to make it its nest. The dragon was killed, but the land never recovered after that. Back then, he was sitting atop the half-collapsed waterfall, when he noticed the strangeness in this place. Having nothing better to do, he decided to explore it, and that is when he found it. There was a cavern behind the waterfall. Behind it was a cavern that had a unique shape, with a stone pedestal in the center. It was empty. As if someone not only took the treasure but also crushed the room's walls and floor for some reason. Even the gateway was damaged. Victor only discovered it back then due to the destruction left by the dragon hunting team. Crawling inside while trying hard not to break the gateway, he reached the chamber inside. It was different than he remembered, a lot different. The floor was covered with dead animals' bones and some strange sparkly material. The walls had an amazing colorful sheen as if they were covered with glass, and in the center, a colorful pearl was placed. Victor knew exactly what it was. A treasure that immortals would battle for. The Soul Pearl of Eo SSS. Soul Nourishing PASSIVE. Soul Protection PASSIVE. Soul Storage Passive. A soul nurturing and protecting artifact. Victor stood there looking at the pearl with a drooling mouth when out of nowhere a monster bit toward him. It was a huge viper with 4 eyes and sharp teeth glittering with a shiny green poison. Victor didn't flinch as the viper bit the wall beside him and then lost its head by a swift cut from his trusty dagger. He quickly made sure to finish it off with another cut and then recheck the perimeter. Safe. Was this thing a mutant python? The system gave him no express for killing it, which meant it was not an otherworldly creature. It was domestic. Was it protecting the pearl? Probably he was using it to nurture his soul. But that does not explain the mutation. Using his identification, Victor only saw one line. Crotalus atrox, age 90 years, demonized 57%. Demonized. What could be the cause? That's a stupid question. There was only one thing of value here. He swiftly stored the python's body in his ring as his eyes darted back toward the pearl. Wiping the drool off his mouth with his sleeve, he began to inspect it. It didn't have any curses or demonification effects. Interesting, he said. It has been a long time since he found anything this intriguing. He was sure of one thing: this was a treasure from another world. The glass-like material on the walls was a silicon-based mineral that can only form when a rupture in the world happens, when another worldly object enters. And since this thing was not living, the world didn't destroy it or create a dungeon around it. First things first, this pearl did not belong to him yet, and he had to make sure to fix that. He quickly used an ink brush to draw a series of strange symbols on the pearl with his blood, making sure not to touch it. The pearl shone with dim light for a second. Then a soft breaking voice could be heard as the pearl shone again with a stronger light that lasted for 10 seconds. Its ownership had changed. This thing was now his property. Even if someone else equipped it, they can only use it with his permission. Victor used the identification again. And as he expected, more information appeared. Status: souls contained inside. 1 plus 35,957 hidden. *T. This thing was packed full of souls. What are they doing inside? Having an AHM, a party. Victor shook his head. His father's hobbies were giving him some really bad thoughts. But still, nothing that might cause demonification. Did the viper come from somewhere else? Victor scowled as he watched it, carefully recalling everything he knew about soul artifacts. They were rare. Only those on the top of the food chain had one. Maybe others like Scions did, but they knew how to hide them well. They were precious. The soul was the weakest point in a human. If someone faced an enemy specialized in soul attacks, it was a one-hit KO unless he had suitable defensive arts or equipment. Like what he did with Dick and that demon using the soul poison. Soul storage artifacts without other specifications usually meant two-directional transfer. It meant whoever inside could occupy the body of the equipper if their soul was weak enough. Victor squinted as he realized something. This thing was pure evil. It's a trap to lure idiots. Was it natural or was it made by someone? Probably a bit of both. The pearl was probably a natural treasure that was built into this by a master artificer. He could imagine some evil expert in another world using it to get a new body after his body was damaged or destroyed. He will hide his soul inside and wait for some idiot with a weak soul to get hold of it. Who needs a soul-nurturing artifact if he didn't have a weak soul? But souls are very hard to destroy when they are in their natural bodies. When he got into a coma, that pussy demon tried to trick him into surrendering his body, but once he realized what it was, destroying it was very easy. Now, that's when the demonification plays its part. Victor squinted his eyes as he began to see the big picture. Demonification usually corrupts the soul, making it weaker, easily destroyed, but on the other hand, the body would be corrupted too, making it invulnerable to other souls, unless the soul inside belongs to a demon. It all made sense, but how was the demonization being activated? A soul can't demonize a creature, even if it took over its body. That can only be done by a real demon or a curse. Like what happened with Iris and Lynn. Victor could see none here, and souls can't use curses and skills. They do not have attributes or authority, so the only interesting things in them was their energy and knowledge. And that viper didn't equip it. Sentient creatures can't equip artifacts. That thing must have just touched it. Was that enough to make it a demon? Victor found a nearby rock and sat on it thinking, wondering what to do about this. He didn't dare to pick up the pearl, he just stared at the emptiness of the cave. Wait, there was an empty space at the end of the skill's description. Oh, so that's how they did it. He smiled as he knew how this thing was done. He heard about this trick in the past. By the time he returned, this trick was so overused that only idiots would fall for it. Now, he would have to take a risk if he decided to make use of this thing. Is it worth it? Duh, of course. A soul artifact would allow him to play many tricks and would provide a contingency in case he was killed. The possibility of that was minor, but not trivial. Whatever he wanted to do, he had only until morning. Looking at his watch, Victor made up his mind. He would let poor Alex take her time and develop some new hobbies while he resolved the situation here. After throwing around a bunch of talismans for hiding and safety, Victor took a bottle of soul wine, then added a drop of his blood to it after emptying it into a bucket that he also took from his ring. He didn't expect this wine to be so useful so soon. He must prepare some batches of it himself. Using the tip of his dagger, he pushed the pearl inside the bucket, making sure not to touch it. He didn't want to alert whoever was inside of his existence. Victor quickly set up the camping cooking set he kept in his ring for dungeon exploration. He lit some fire and put the bucket on it and let it simmer as he sat down. It was time for him to prepare. He took a bunch of pills and then began to draw some weird symbols on his chest while waiting for the pearl to absorb all the wine. After a while, making sure that the wine was all absorbed by the pearl, he put out the fire. Then after waiting for it to cool down, he took a deep breath, and began to do some wired movements with his body that ended with him hitting his chest, causing himself to spit a splash of purple blood on the pearl. Seeing that the pearl had successfully absorbed the blood, he collapsed with a pale face and weak body. His breath was short, and he knew that he would take a while to heal. The three-horned demon was in a deep sleep when he felt it. Someone came at last, a new soul. A weak soul. Opening its eyes, it noticed the others around it felt it too. The old man in the corner opened his eyes too. Though he was frowning, the demon wondered if the old man would kill this one to let its energy enrich the pearl, or would he leave it as a pet like the rest of them. Soon, the soul, so weak that it was almost transparent, appeared inside the dark room. It was of an old man with white purplish hair. It looked at itself and chuckled as it metamorphosed into a younger version of itself. Can it do that? Sometimes I forget how old my soul was, but this allows it to be big enough for splitting, the young man said as his clothes changed from an old librarian robe to that of a suit. A napkin appeared in his hand. He wrapped it around its neck as if preparing for a meal. You have knowledge of soul arts? The old man who was watching asked with a harsh voice. You were the one who took my pearl? He asked, no anger in his voice. Yours. It is now mine, finders keepers. The young man said. Oh, but it will return to being mine very soon. It always does. You should have just taken the pearl as a defense artifact. Perhaps you could have lived a few more years, the old man said, with an amused voice, but no smiles could be seen on his haggard face. I just wanted to find who was hiding inside. Now you did, and you will stay here for eternity. The old man said with a chuckle as if he was watching a good show to relieve his boredom. What? This thing is mine, I can leave any moment if I want to. The young man said. The moment you touched the pearl you were cursed. You were demonized, the old man said. What curse? I appraised this thoughtfully. It did not have a curse. The soul said, making the old man surprised. You have a master appraisal skill, not bad. But sadly for you, the curse is not on the pearl, but on one of its powers, he said, enjoying outsmarting others. You can't do that, unless. The soul looked at him with shocked eyes. You are an artificer, you cursed a skill rune then transferred it to the pearl, then you erased the skill with a low-leveled talisman that had no authority to remove the curse, leaving a demonification curse that both existed and did not. No appraisal can find this. The young man with purple hair said, making the old man look at him differently. You are smarter than you seem, the old man said, truly astonished by the spot-on analysis. Maybe I should keep you as a pet. He added. So all I have to do is to use a talisman to dispel it, the young man murmured, totally ignoring the old man. Are you still dreaming of leaving this place? Your body was demonized. If your soul was still in your body you could have delayed this for years, but now you would only find a demon waiting for you outside, and without demonic arts to adjust your soul, it would perish in seconds. The old man patiently explained, making the young man's soul nod. True, demons are very resistant to other souls invading their bodies for that very reason. Oh, so this was your trick, disguise this as just a soul nurturing artifact, wait for the soul to enter it for protection after getting attacked, take over the body. The soul said as it looked at the souls of the demons around. But that doesn't work on me. The soul said, making the old man squint as he inspected his barely transparent body. You split your soul, the old man said in surprise. Yes, just a tiny sliver, I will just use this pearl to nurture it back to health. The soul said, smart, I confess, but you still have a problem. You see, after we destroy you, we will get out of this and take over your body. Your soul is now injured because of the severing. It can't resist us. The old man said, I never touched the pearl. The young man said, making the old man freeze. Never. Yup, I always found it suspicious, the young man said. Smart, too smart, but also an idiot. The old man laughed. What, you can't go back without touching the pearl? The old man said, so this part of your soul would stay here forever. The old man said, I can just dispel the curse. The soul said, I began to doubt your intelligence. The old man said, first, you can't dispel the curse. Not without an authority higher than mine. Second, even if you somehow manage to dispel the curse, by the time you do that this part of your soul would have already perished. Nice analysis. I just wanted to ask, were you the one who made this pearl? The young man asked, totally ignoring the old man's conclusions. Of course, I am the master artificer Trovel. The old man said as he laughed loudly, making the demons around shudder. Oh, the soul said with a frown, I was right then. The soul said, about what? The old man asked. About how the souls inside here are too valuable to kill. I always wanted to be an artificer, but no one agreed to teach me, the soul said. And why would I teach you? The old man asked while being amused. You will not, I will just eat all of you here and slowly digest your energy and knowledge. The soul said, causing every demon around to laugh. Even the demon slug who didn't have a mouth was about to burst out laughing. Does that idiot know how many demons are inside here? The old man didn't laugh. Soul devouring, you know that lost art? He asked. Yes, the soul said, I picked it up in a tattered book. Some idiot wanted me to sort the books in the basement as a punishment, and I found it there. The soul said as if it was remembering an old event. How about giving it to me? I might spare you, I may even teach you, the old man said as his eyes shone with greed. Why would I do that? I can eat you and get all your knowledge. The soul said arrogantly, you know that you are not the only one who can use soul arts. I can fight too, you know, you are just a sliver of a soul. The old man said, looking down on his enemy. I have enough power to finish all of you, now lay obediently on your stomachs and get ready to be eaten. The young man said as a huge sword appeared in his hand. Why did it look like a meat-cutting knife? The old man howled in anger. He will beat this *TTY guy into pieces, then torture his soul here to get the info he wants. Arrogantly, he made a move with his hand reaching for the sky. Nothing happened. He tried again. Nothing happened. He tried a third time with his face turning red. A wisp of smoke appeared and then disappeared. What did you do? The old man asked with horrific eyes that the demons had never seen before. I just simmered you a little bit, making you all soft and tender. The young man said, making the old man take a step back. Then I will blow my soul up with every one of my pets. You will get nothing. The old man howled. Nothing happened. Itadakimasu. The young man said, then licked his tender lips. Chapter 176, An Accident. Mira was shocked by the view she saw after gaining conscience. She was in a large room made of stone. This was like that dungeon in an ancient castle she was shooting a movie in, except here, there was no window, and the only light source was those blue flowers that gave faint luminescence, barely enough to see the road around her. She clutched the spear in her hand tightly. It has been a long time since she left the family island. Her combat style was a little rusty, but if this place was full of snakes like they told her, she would have to fight. Why did her young master want her to come here? What was that blue vortex? And how did she get in here? They were all questions that she didn't know how to answer. Suddenly she noticed the blue shimmering screen to the side of her sight. Focusing on it, it slides to the front as if it were the UI of some VR game. Warning. You have entered a dungeon. Initializing dungeon awakening procedure. Welcome player. Analyzing input data finished. You have successfully awakened as a player. Your attributes have been automatically assigned by the system. Name. Mira. Level. 0. Class. Illusionist. Authority. 2. Strength. 15. Intelligence. 28. Agility. 18. Luck. 22. Charm. 35. Order. 10. Skills. Invisibility. A. Ventriloquism. B. Minor self-disguise. C. Setup complete. Mira was surprised at first, wondering what this was, but after a few minutes of trial and error, during which she considered this to be a candid camera prank, she realized this was real. That girl Margaret told her to prepare for an experience weirder than her wildest imagination. Looking at the screen, she really felt that this was a game. Why would she get this class? An illusionist, what does that mean? She frowned as she felt something hot in her pocket. Looking at it, she realized it was the disc Margaret gave to her on the bus. She said that this was a gift from the young master to keep her safe. It would get hot when an enemy is nearby. Mira clenched her spear tight in an amateurish defense posture and scanned the area around her. There was nothing. She wanted to throw the disc away as a scam, but some deep instinct inside her told her that it was not. Could it be mistaken? She didn't dare to relax. She took the snake repellent spray with her left hand and began to spray around her. Then something moved. On the wall, blended with the cracked mortar between two huge stones, there was a finger-sized worm. No, it was a snake with teeth half the size of its body. Mira didn't hesitate to step back and use her spear to strike at it. She missed and the snake lurched at her. But seemingly due to the repellent smell, it backed off a little, giving Mira a chance to strike again. This time she hit it. The snake disintegrated in seconds, leaving a fingernail-sized red gem. After a few hours, Victor regained his consciousness. He sat up and looked at the pearl in the bucket. The battle inside was over. Now he just needed time to eat them. The remnants of the soul will not dissipate in the pearl. That's why he split his soul. He can't risk entering another coma for a few months this time, not until he finishes with his setup for the future, that is. He coughed, although the soul splitting had hurt him badly. In time his second soul would digest those demons and send some energy back to him, making his soul not only heal up but also get stronger than before. He needed to return to the brothel, but first, he needed to resolve the pearl's curse. He took a few healing pills, then stood up and knelt before the bucket. He bought a very expensive curse-dispelling talisman and activated it on the pearl. Error. Select target. A screen appeared. In his mind, he focused on the pearl's fourth non-existence effect. Trovel's demonization touch curse SS was found. Requires less than 141 greater than authority to dispel. Are you sure? Victor pressed less than yes, greater than. Curse removed. Victor checked the pearl again thoughtfully, making sure nothing was amiss. Then, still a little couscous, he stored the bucket with the pearl inside it in his ring. He will analyze it later once he digests that artificer's memories, just in case. Wanting to leave, Victor paused for a second and looked at the room. Shall he harvest the walls? No, those materials might be a novelty now, but after the reckoning, people would complain about them all the time. He could try the same trick he used on Tom. Maybe some scion would discover this place. But Victor didn't dare to leave some of his blood here without a proper plan. Blood can be used to create some very nasty curses. Still, it was a pity to leave such a perfect scamming location. Should he use this place to make some profit? After some thought, Victor took out a storage ring. This one was one of many in the stack he stole from his family's treasury. A random B-ranked ring, something many players would desire. First, he disguised his info and then bound it to him. So now, no one can look inside and discover that it was empty. That won't do. Victor took a photo of Venus, Lily's grandma, that he copied earlier from his ring and put it in the new ring. Just in case. After that, Victor used his dagger to inscribe the number 3 in an otherworldly script on the ring. Whoever finds this might want to get numbers 1 and 2. They might pay a lot of money for the mysterious ring that can't be opened. Victor was always curious about who took the pearl in his previous life, and this was his way to find out. And make some money on the way. Looking at his setup, Victor smiled and left the cave with some difficulty. It took him an hour and a half to return to the room where Alex had finished her dirty deed and was waiting for him. "Young master, are you okay?" Alex asked with concern when she saw Victor collapse on the floor's carpet with a pale face. "Do I look okay?" Victor scolded despite being out of breath. He overestimated his ability to swim under a waterfall in his current state. "Young master, what happened to you? Where have you been?" Alex asked. "Don't ask unnecessary questions. Do you see me asking you what you did to the girls?" ellipsis. "Now help me to the bathroom," Victor ordered. Alex was hesitant, but looking at Victor's state, she quickly dragged him to the shower and helped him with a blushing face. This was her first time. "You call yourself a man, damn it," Victor scolded. "Can't you stop getting shy? How are you going to get married if you keep acting like a wimp?" he added as Alex helped him wear his clothes and then walk back to the room with a blushing face. She didn't hear his scolding at all, as her mind was still occupied by what she saw inside. "Should I help you to the bed?" she asked after a few seconds. "No, you idiot," Victor said while looking at the filthy bed with naked girls sleeping in it in some very unnatural positions. "What did she do to them? Never mind, they deserve this for calling him a pervert pizza boy in the past. Let's leave, it is already 5:00 am. Victor said as he sprinkled an antidote to wake up the girls in the air, then unlocked the door and left with Alex. Young master, leaving early?" The receptionist who was still at her desk asked with a hidden smile when she saw Victor's haggard state. This was not the first time she saw someone leave the brothel like this. "Young men overestimate their skills. Hopefully the girls didn't disappoint you," she said. "Not at all. Ahm. He coughed. "Young master, your bill," she said, not caring about his health and politely presenting him with a folded paper. He looked at it secretly and nodded, then gave the receptionist his family bank card. "The one for business expenditures." The receptionist quickly completed the payment and gave Victor back his card with the receipt. "Come again, young master," she said, barely hiding her chuckle, "and next time try with fewer girls," she said as she watched him leave through the door. "Stop," someone yelled as soon as Victor's foot touched the street outside the brothel. It was a group of young men led by a cocky handsome guy with blue and pink hair. He was holding a hatchet in his hand. "Are you the one who took my room?" the young man asked, pointing the hatchet at Victor. "Room 31, Victor asked after a cough. "No," the man replied, not expecting that answer. "Then it's not me," Victor said as he headed to the car with Alex's help. She held her laugh professionally. Alex could only laugh loudly after starting the car and reaching the road. "Young master, you are so bad. This must be that Master Chen, he didn't dare to make trouble inside and waited for you by the door," she said, giggling. "You are still in the mood to laugh. Look, that's how much your youthful night had cost me, you better be thankful." Victor scolded as he handed Alex the receipt, dampening her laughter immediately. Her eyes grew larger looking at the 8 digits number, that was her past sex expenditure for an entire year. "Those guys are super greedy. She should have shoved that stick a little deeper. The one behind this brothel is a real big shot to get away with charging this much," she asked. "Unofficially it belongs to the Players' Council. On paper, it belongs to the biggest conglomerate in the world, which is the Player Council's front. So no matter who, player or not, no one dares to make trouble here, and they know what privacy means, so it can get a little pricey," he said. "Would the girls get any of this?" she asked with some concern. "Of course, about 40 to 50%, Victor said. "Do you want me to sell you here?" he asked, reading her dirty thoughts. No, she said with blushing ears. She can't believe she thought of that. "Good, they only take pretty girls here, and no matter how many dresses you wear you can't work here," Victor said, "although I know a place that could make use of your talents," he added. "No thank you, I am fine as you butler, young master." Alex quickly refused. Would there be a problem with leaving the girls unconsciously? She asked, changing the subject. "No, many young masters from players' families come here. They usually use some kind of memory erasing artifact or talisman. People say things they shouldn't say when they are, you know. And many of them would also want to hide their uselessness," Victor explained. "Then why didn't the young master use one of those?" Alex asked. "There are ways to return lost memories, but there are none if the memories didn't exist in the first place," Victor explained. "Now go to the Golden Hotel and get me a room. I will sleep until noon, you should get some sleep too. We would have a good show to watch in the evening," Victor said as he relaxed in his chair and sent a message to Lily informing her that he will meet her at the hotel in the afternoon and to stay with his mother and protect her. She replied, "His grandmother seemingly had an accident last night and ended up in the hospital, so his mother would be staying there with her. She would stay in the hospital too to protect her." "Is she okay? What happened?" Victor quickly texted. "Nothing major, apparently she fell. That's what she told the doctors anyway." Cheeky smiley face, Lily answered back. Chapter 177, Punishment 2. Ruby wiped the tears from her eyes as she ran away from a swarm of snakes. Why was she here? Suddenly a firm hand grasped her collar and dragged her into a hole in the wall that was closed a second later by a small boulder. "Is that how I taught you to fight?" a voice that scared the sh*t out of her asked. It was her mistress, Alpha. "Mistress, I panicked and dropped my spear," she said, waiting for punishment. You are lucky you found me. Alpha said, not punishing her. This is a safe room, catch your breath and arrange your stuff. Were you bitten? She asked. No, Ruby shook her little head. It came close, but the spray on my body delayed them for a second, allowing me to run. She said. Good. Theta would hate me if anything were to happen to you. Alpha said. What's your class? She asked. Class, a healer. Ruby said, earning herself a slap to the head. Never reveal your class to anyone. You can do that only with the permission of your master. Alpha scolded. A healer is rare, very rare. It's good for you. I was planning to leave you here and hurry to save the other idiots, but with you here, we may be able to avoid casualties. Alpha said. Ruby, who was a little unsure, nodded. She wanted to ask Alpha some questions about this place, but chose not to, after seeing the nasty expression on her face. Mistress Alpha was always upset about something. Damn that bastard Victor, the girls are not ready, she was muttering. Who was Victor? Her boyfriend. Ruby wondered silently. That same Victor woke up at 3 p.m. He didn't know how he reached this bed. But he was pretty much sure that Alex had to carry him, as he must have passed out in the car. This was the presidential suite in the Gold Hotel that belonged to his grandfather. He worked here for a while. He even cleaned this very bed once. Sitting up, with some difficulty he stretched his arms and realized he was wearing pajamas. Oh, Alex was learning to be a good girl. He should quickly find a way to resolve her fate and let her join his harem. Suddenly his phone rang. It was his mother's number. Brother, it's me, a girl whispered in a hurry on the phone. Lara. Lara, why are you calling me? Where is mother? He asked. Esteemed mother is still with grandmother at the hospital. I took her phone and sneaked with cousin Marley to get to the party. She whispered in an aggrieved voice. Some people had just taken cousin Katia away and locked us here in the hall. They are very scary, she said with a scared voice. I will be right there. He said. Things might come a little out of hand. Looking around, he didn't find his clothes, so he quickly took a suit from his ring and changed into it before leaving the room with some difficulty. His soul was not healed yet and Alex was nowhere to be found. Victor quickly made his way to the biggest hall in the hotel, the Golden VIP hall, where two men in black were guarding the door. With many security guards on the floor with broken limbs. Private event, one of them said, but stopped as Victor flashed his family token, causing the guards to quickly bow and open the doors for him. Those are his father's men, he knew that from the markings on their cuffs. It seemed like Iris was exacting her revenge on Lucas. He knew that from yesterday when he heard about Lucas hosting a VIP. When the families take revenge on someone, they don't hurt him alone, they might also destroy everything around him to make an example out of him. That might be a little bit cruel, but that's how they keep their absolute power. Victor was expecting his mother to come here with Lily to solve the situation and slap her family's face. But he made a miscalculation. He didn't expect his grandfather to, no, his grandmother to fall all of a sudden, causing Elena to have to stay with her at the hospital. Reaching the hall where many invited people were nervously standing and making pleading calls to their supporters and not knowing who those men were. He quickly found Lara, who ran into his embrace, making him sigh in relief. She was safe. Why are you here? He asked. I am sorry. Mother commanded me to return to the villa with my cousins, but they insisted on coming here to see cousin Katia's boyfriend. She said, keeping her face down. He could see tears dripping on her to the floor. Not obeying orders in the family had severe consequences. I will punish you later. But don't do it again. He whispered in her little ear as he hugged her while looking around. His little cousins were nowhere to be found, probably hiding behind their parents. She nodded while keeping her head down as she hugged him back. Burying her head in his chest, would he get that skill now? Victor, how did you get in? Quickly take Lara and escape. His uncle Carl, who noticed him in the crowded hall, quickly ran to his side and warned. It was too late, as his other uncles and cousins surrounded him. Nephew Victor, can you get us out too? His aunt, who saw how her yet-to-be son-in-law groveled at his feet yesterday, asked, making her brothers and their wives look at her strangely. His uncle Larry wanted to say something when Victor completely ignored them and spoke to one of the guards. Let the Carlson family leave, Victor commanded the guards dressed in black while flashing his token again. Young master, the mistress had commanded that no one should leave before investigating everyone. One of the guards said. Do you want to lose your head, you piece of sh*t? Victor asked angrily, making the guard stop back as the captain, who came a little bit late, bowed to Victor, who frowned a little. The sole injury was causing him to lose his temper very quickly. Young Master Victor, He is new, please forgive him. The captain apologized for his man who bowed too, realizing that this young man must be very important. Do you know them? He asked, looking at Victor's uncles. This one was one of his father's bodyguards and knew Victor well as he served in the family mansion before. They are my mother's family, Victor said, making the captain nod quickly and activate his walkie-talkie. Let the Carlsons go, the captain said, making his uncles and cousins surprised. Who the hell is this Victor? Go before I change my mind, Victor said, as he looked at their surprised faces. Although he wanted to enjoy some face slapping, he was not in the mood, as he wanted to return to his bed. Nephew, my daughter Katya, she was taken to the inner room. Please save her, they said that they would cut her into pieces after she declared that she was Lucas's girlfriend. His uncle's wife pleaded suddenly, making Victor frown. Katya was Lucas's girlfriend, Victor didn't like her at all, but she was his cousin after all. Fine, I will go get her. Wait outside, Victor said with a sigh as he passed through the crowd of businessmen who didn't dare to make trouble. Lara was still holding his hand when he gestured to the guards to open the door to the VIP inner room. He would not let go of her. Entering the inner room, Victor quickly discovered that Lucas, with a few other young masters, were all on the ground with bloody whip marks on them. Katya was there too. She was only hit twice, but she was already crying and cursing like a slut at her boyfriend for being useless. Mia was the one holding the whip enjoying torturing them as Iris stood disturbed to the side. George stood silently behind her. This was probably his idea to show Iris how things should be done. That's enough Mia, Victor said, making her stop and look at him. Surprised at him being here. Ooh, it's young Master Victor, did you come to defend your bodies? She asked angrily. Mia, don't be rude, Iris quickly said. Rude, didn't you see what those guys wanted to do to you? Mia yelled as she struck at Lucas with her whip, making him cover his head as a new red line appeared on his arms. Do you know what they wanted to do to Iris? Yesterday she went to him. To give him a chance to prove that he meant well. That bastard intended to rape her with his buddies. Mia yelled angrily as she struck again. Maybe because she was a little agitated this time she struck at Victor. And by chance, she happened to hit Lara's shoulder by mistake, causing her to fall to the ground with teary eyes. Who are you to tell me to? Mia continued to yell when she suddenly stopped as a firm hand grasped her throat and lifted her into the air. It was Victor whose eyes were bloodshot after seeing what happened to his sister. Do you want to die B*TCH? He asked in a voice that made even George who intended to intervene shiver a little and stop. He only heard his master Theodore use this voice once. When he lost her. Let go, she yelled, but his hand only squeezed her neck harder, making her struggle helpless as she looked into his eyes and was truly terrified for the first time in her life. He was clearly very enraged. Victor, brother, please let Mia go, it was a mistake, Lara is fine. Iris, who realized what just happened, regained her composure and quickly ran to Lara's side and checked her wound. It only left a skin trauma, but it was so painful that Lara began to sob against her will. There is only one thing in the world that I can't forgive, and that is someone hurting my family. Victor said coldly as he walked to the glass wall overlooking the city to the side of the room and crushed it with one kick, which caused George to be shocked. Even he would have to kick it 2 times to break it as this glass was bulletproof to protect this VIP hall. It can even withstand a small missile. Victor extended his hand holding Mia out of the window, letting her dangle with the street below her. Do you know your mistake? He asked coldly as she shook in fear in his hand. She had just realized how scary Victor truly was. This guy was not a young master. He was a monster. She didn't know what to say. You should not hit people indiscriminately, you should respect your elders, you should be more modest. And most importantly, when I tell you to stop, you *CKING stop. Too bad you might not live to reflect. He said. Victor, please let her go. Iris pleaded as she looked at George, who didn't dare intervene but got ready to grab Mia in case Victor really dropped her. Brother, let Sister Mia go, she learned her lesson. A soft voice suddenly said, he was waiting for that. It was Lara. Do you really want me to let go of her here? She would fall to her death. He asked, jokingly, making George and Iris breathe in relief. He was not serious anymore. Please bring her inside and let her go. Lara said with a blush as she held her shoulder painfully. She has to apologize to you first, Victor said softly, looking back at Mia. I'm sorry Lara. I didn't mean to, Mia said just as Victor dragged her back inside and then softly dropped her to the floor. Be more aware of your surroundings next time, Victor said softly as he approached Lara and checked her injury. Nothing major. The truly injured one was him. For a second there he really lost his cool. He didn't expect this to happen, but he knew that this was the side effect of an injured soul. It makes him a little out of control. He should be careful not to kill anyone in the next few days. Does it hurt? He asked his little sister softly. Only at the beginning. It's fine now, Lara replied with teary eyes. Don't lie, take this. Victor quickly fed her a healing pill and took one himself, making George's eyes pop open. A grand healing pill, what the f***ck? One of those would cost him his entire salary for a week. And this bastard was taking them as candy. Where did he get them? Young Master Victor, please help me. This is a misunderstanding. Out of nowhere Lucas, who was on the ground, woke up and began to beg. You were happy to meet my sister. Now you don't want that? Victor asked, regaining his arrogance. He knelt to the ground and took the whip that fell from Mia's hand, then gave it to the hesitant Iris. You should do it yourself. Never give your men a dirty job that you are not ready to do by yourself, he said, making her look to the floor with embarrassment. He is right, George said as he helped the little shaken Mia to her feet. Iris hesitated and was about to strike at Lucas and his gang when a girl screamed. Cousin, help me. It was Katya this time. Ah, sorry, I totally forgot about this one. Iris, this slut here is Katya, my cousin. I will be taking her home for some domestic discipline. You may continue, Victor said, grabbing Katya's hair. She began to complain, but he ignored her. Oh, Iris nodded in surprise as she watched Victor drag his cousin outside while she screamed. She remembered when he fought the demon that day for her. He really takes care of his family but makes sure not to show it. She smiled softly, then hid her smile as she turned around and looked coldly at Lucas. Those guys were about to do some very bad sh*t to her. Mia had lost her mind when George made them listen to Lucas's recorded instructions to his cronies. Victor and Uncle George was right. She has been using her father's authority until now without realizing her responsibilities. Now she must educate this bastard herself. Iris, I really didn't mean to, Lucas said as he shook. Slap. Ah, it was all Lucas's idea, one of his buddies said. Yeah, he was the one who wanted us to put you and your sister in a cage with the. Ah, he didn't continue as Iris began hitting them using all of her strength as a player. Mia stood there watching. She was a little ashamed of herself. She really went a little overboard there, but this bastard Lucas made her remember her best friend who committed suicide after getting toyed with by some bastard young master. Glancing at the door, she remembered Victor's grasp on her neck. She softly put her hand touching his finger marks on her neck, not knowing what to think. Ellipsis. Victor threw Katya into her father's arms as soon as he left the room. They didn't leave the hall, they were waiting outside the door, watching the show inside through the doors that were intentionally left slightly ajar by Victor. Take her to the hospital, she might need a few stitches, Victor said as he walked out. He didn't want to risk killing one of them if they angered him. Nephew, his aunt wanted to say something, but Victor ignored her and left. The Carlson family looked at each other, then quickly followed him out as they didn't dare to stay here for one more second. When they reached the door, Victor was nowhere to be seen. Olga, who the hell is Alina's husband? Bob finally asked. He really wanted to know why did that super VIP girl call Victor brother. I think his name was Theodore White, do you know? She answered. What? Larry and Bob interrupted at the same time. No one told them that. Where is Elle? Victor asked Lara as he reached his room upstairs and collapsed on the bed, then popped another healing pill in his mouth. She is with Mother, helping Grandma enter the ladies' room. She was the one who stuffed Mother's phone in my pocket. Please don't punish her brother, Lara said as she sat beside her brother. She kept her face down. Oh, a smart girl. Don't worry, she did nothing wrong. And where is Grandpa? Wasn't he at the hospital? Victor asked. He said he had some urgent insurance tests to perform, she said, not noticing the smug smile on her brother's face. Insurance, or was it endurance? Ah yes, that's it, she nodded, still not daring to raise her head. You know that I will have to punish you, he said. Yes, she answered. She broke the rules and disobeyed her elders. Eat this, he said, presenting her with a mushroom. This is your punishment, Victor said. You know that Father will know of what you did, so either take my punishment or wait for his one. He added. Lara didn't hesitate and ate the mushroom. Her father's punishments were scary. The next moment she regretted her decision. Swallow it, Victor warned. She quickly did that with teary eyes. She must have chosen to let her esteemed father punish her. This mushroom punishment was way too cruel. What was wrong with this thing's taste? Can something taste this bad? Eat this candy. Victor gave her a piece of candy after 2 minutes. The punishment was over. This would help your shoulder heal faster too, Victor said as he ate one mushroom himself with a smile. Although this mushroom effect was minor, it would provide all the necessary nutrients for the body to repair itself. Brother, how can you eat that? Lara asked with disgust. You get used to it. Victor lied. He was disguising its taste. Now, where did that idiot Alex go? Victor asked casually, then stood up suddenly causing Lara to flinch. That idiot can't sit still without causing a disaster, damn it. He yelled, then turned to his cute sister. Lara, I will have to go run an errand, you stay here and call Lily to come and pick you up. Her number is on Mother's phone. Oh, and don't tell anyone anything about what will happen next, he said as he headed to the window overlooking the city and began to look at the streets below as if searching for something. About what? Lara wanted to ask when her brother suddenly magically passed through the glass and floated in midair, then flew in a certain direction. Lara quickly ran to the glass window and stuck her face to it, watching in shock as Victor disappeared in a certain direction. Her esteemed brother can fly. Chapter 178. Damn you, Alex. Archie really wanted to cry, but he had no tears. He always knew his luck was *tty. But why the hell did he have to partner with this slutty girl, Margaret? And on top of that, why did he have to be trapped with her in this place while being surrounded by snakes in all shapes and colors? He thought she was a normal slut when he first met her. The type that ran after big money. He encountered those a lot as a young master, and knew perfectly well how to control them. He was mistaken, she was not a normal slut but an evolved one, the type who found a big backer to cling to and evolved from a carp to a dragon. The backer this one found was one of the biggest, and she was not afraid to show it off. What are you thinking about? You sissy, focus on the snakes. I will lure half of them as before. Kill the ones who stay here before I circle around and return with the others. She yelled at him as she ran away while wiggling her butt. And indeed about half of the snakes followed her, extending their split tongues in her direction and wiggling their bodies in a very strange way that he didn't understand. Or maybe he just didn't want to. The other snakes were distracted as they gave her a hateful look that allowed him to attack them easily with his spear and then practice his air blade on the last few. His class was a wizard, a wind wizard. The two black vans with a strange curved fan symbol were moving at an accelerated speed on the highway. Uncle, we are already far away. Why did you have to kidnap this guy? I told you, it is the other one who took my room. We should return in. Su Chen complained. Idiot, this one is Alex Donner. I have seen him when I was visiting his sect with your father before. His uncle, Su Ming, rebuked as he touched his swollen eye and looked at Alex who was tied at the back of the van. This guy surprised him. He was a tough fighter and had a high level that is very strange for her age. Thankfully he was inexperienced and fell for his tricks, allowing Su Ming to overpower him and seal his powers. Who is Alex Donner? Isn't he just a sissy bodyguard? Why should I care? I asked you to come to take revenge for me. That guy stole my room, and my girls then lied in my face. Su Chen said angrily. Idiot, you should stop spending your life in brothels and start to learn some useful things. Su Ming scolded. This one is worth a lot. Half of the world's powers want him. He never expected that today would be his lucky day. He was accompanying his idiot nephew to a VIP party in the Golden Hotel when Su Chen noticed Alex, who was shopping for some clothes in a nearby shop. Su Chen got very angry. He quickly told his uncle the story about how they took his room and then lied in his face about him. If it were not for a waiter who tipped them off, they would have waited all day. He wanted revenge. Su Ming didn't really care, but when he carefully inspected Alex, he realized his true identity. What does that have to do with us? Aren't we banished from the sect? Su Chan asked. If we hand him to the sect, your father might approve our return, Su Ming explained. What, really? Su Chen asked. He was kicked out of his sect at a young age due to him raping a female disciple and getting discovered. The scandal was so big that his father had to kick him out to save his life. He didn't even have the chance to attempt the sect ceremony. It just so happened that Elder Ming also assaulted one of his disciples on the same day, so they were banished together. Yes, you would not have to be ashamed all the time. You can return and maybe get the future patriarch's seat from your stepbrother's hands. Su Ming said. And I don't have to waste my time looking after you. He thought in his heart. His banishment was not real. He was just sent to look after the patriarch's only son. What, really? Is he that important? We should call them quickly. Su Chen said in excitement. Su Ming nodded. He was so preoccupied with his gains that he forgot the most important thing, they have phones nowadays. Taking his phone and calling his sect, Su Ming discovered that he can't make a call, all he heard was random noise. This thing is useless, Su Ming said as Su Chen tried his own phone. Nothing was working, not even his cronies' phones worked. I should sue the phone company, Su Chen complained. Those bastards are charging me a lot for their flimsy services. No, something is wrong, Su Ming, who was more experienced, said when he was interrupted. Young master, elder, something weird is happening with this guy, he is turning into a woman. One of the men on the back suddenly said, making Su Chen and Su Ming look back at the tied Alex in surprise. Indeed, it was very slow, but his face and jawline were getting softer, as if he was slowly turning into a girl, a hot girl. She was glaring at them with tears in her eyes. Did you take anything from him? Su Ming jabbed his nephew who began to drool, then asked him. Ah, some pretty rings, are they magical? Su Chen asked, as he began to fumble in his pockets. If I am not mistaken this should be. Bang, the van in the front exploded, causing theirs to begin to derail as the driver lost control. Thankfully he was a professional, and managed to stabilize the van just as a bullet passed through his head and hit Su Chen in the shoulder. There was a scream when the vehicle that lost its balance hit the side of the road and it began to roll. Su Ming, who was shocked by the events, wanted to help his injured nephew but stopped. Carrying someone out of the car with a sniper round was a death sentence, and if this bastard died, wouldn't he be free to join the sect again? Wouldn't the future patriarch reward him for getting rid of his only rival? Just as the flipped van slid to a stop at the road, Su Ming, ignoring Su Chen's pleas, kicked the door that was now over their heads, then used it as a cover as he dashed out intending to escape. The assailant's target was either Alex or his nephew. And he was not ready to sacrifice his life for any of them. Whoever did this, would not leave any witnesses. That's how families worked. Using the smoke caused by the explosion of the other car as a cover, he quickly ran to the side of the road then ducked and began to crawl on his stomach when he was decapitated by a swift sword strike by a handsome young master. Victor shook his sword, cleaning it from blood, then looked at the flipped car where two men were crawling out with bloodied clothes. He shot them both in the forehead with his gun, then turned back to the middle-aged headless man on the ground and began to search him for valuables. He didn't have a storage ring, but a storage pouch of inferior quality. Inside it, there were some gems, an iron fan, and a few drugs. Nothing interesting. Victor sighed as he stored the corpse in his ring then looked at the flipped van and began heading in its direction. When reaching it, he jumped to the opening created by the broken door and looked down at the situation inside. Alex seemed to have finished putting a ring on her finger. She had just taken it back from Su Chen who was strangled to death. She used the rope tying her hands to do that. Not bad. Are you okay? Victor asked as he extended his hand to her. She nodded as quickly took it and climbed up. That bastard was really tough. At least 20 levels above her. She had a few broken ribs but nothing major, as he didn't want her to let her die. Thank you, young master, Alex said after Victor cut her ropes and removed the talisman restricting her power. She quickly adjusted her clothes, hiding her curvy body. The ring's effect would take some time to fully change her gender. Thankfully Victor was lazy enough to give her some time to retrieve her stuff from that bastard's pocket. Alex smiled softly as she looked at Victor. She was really scared, but she kept believing that he would come and save her. He really did. Looking at her smiling face, Victor froze. Damn, she is pretty. Young master, is there anything wrong? Alex asked after a few seconds when she noticed the odd silence and felt his fiery gaze on her. He never looked at her like this before. It made her feel wired. Absolutely beautiful, he said after a second before he spat on the ground in anger. Damn it. He cursed loudly. For a second there, he has just been charmed by her beauty. His injured soul was causing him trouble again. Scared. Who? Me? Ah, really? Alex blushed as she heard his words. Damn you, Alex, you are going to turn me gay someday. Victor cursed loudly again as he threw a grenade in the flipped van and then started heading in a certain direction while hiding his face. Alex smiled cheekily as she popped a healing pill in her mouth. I might really just do that, she said as she chuckled and ran after him, ignoring the explosion behind her. Chapter 179, Avoiding Her. Come here, you are safe, Theta told the frightened girl as the twins and two assassin girls cleared the area of snakes. Are you hurt anywhere? Theta asked the girl who was hiding in a small hole while fending off snakes for hours. The girl quickly shook her pretty head. She was okay, just a little frightened. She thought her suffering had ended when she escaped from the brothel. Clearly, that was not the case. Is this the last one alone? Mana asked as she finished the last of the snakes in the area. Yes, we are lucky this place is not that big. Theta nodded as she checked her map. Now we should clean this place up, then regroup with Big Sister Alpha at the boss's room. She added as she began to collect the gems scattered on the floor. Too bad Arya is not with us, we could have let her sell those things for us, Mina said. The young master might have other uses for them, didn't you notice how the arrays seem to be working using them? Mana replied, it's just that my ring is already half full of those low-quality gems. I don't want to carry them on my back. Mina complained as she stroked the storage ring on her finger. This was given to her by the young master, although it was just a normal gift from him, she liked to imagine it as something else. After leaving the highway, Victor headed to the hotel while calling George to tell him what happened. They needed to hide their tracks. Thankfully all the cameras in the hotel were disabled today because of Iris's revenge party. So the evidence cleaning would be pretty easy. George just told Victor to stay low for a while. Entering his room in the hotel, Victor was surprised to see that Lily was there talking with Lara, whose eyes shone when she looked at him. Esteemed brother, you are back, she said as she ran to him, then jumped and hugged him. You missed me that much? He asked jokingly as he held her. Can you teach me how to do it? She whispered pleadingly in his ear as she hung from his neck, earning herself a slap at her pretty head as he put her down. After your ceremony, you are still too young for that. And don't tell anyone about this. That's an order, Victor warned as he rubbed her hair. Lily's ears perked. Young for what? She said, not really content. But not daring to argue. She had already been punished once today. And she doesn't want to taste that thing ever again. Even father? She asked a moment later. Not if you want me to teach you, he said, making her nod to herself. Lily, how is my grandmother? He turned to Lily and asked. She was carefully inspecting him and Alex, who was standing nervously near the door with a stupid grin. She is fine. Although she would leave the hospital today, she would need a wheelchair for a couple of days. She said casually, how was your night yesterday, young master? She asked curiously after noticing his pale complexion. I may have overtaxed myself, we will talk about this later. He said as he took a pill and swallowed it, then remembering something, he got another one from his ring and gave it to Lily. Give this to Grandma secretly, it would let her heal faster. He said, you are not going back to the family villa? She asked as she carefully packed the pill. No, I am too tired for that, and I can't risk getting agitated by those idiots. He said as he took off his shirt and then threw himself on his grand bed. Lara blushed softly and averted her eyes, then looked again secretly. Her esteemed brother's body is so good, even better than her esteemed father, whom she might have accidentally watched as he trained, not on purpose. Then you would stay here with Alex? Lily asked, a little annoyed that she can't sleep with her young master. Yes, sorry Lily, but I really need you to protect my mother. She hates Alex, so I can't let him do that. The girls should finish the raid in 2 days, we can return to Vane City after that. He said, lying a little. He didn't dare to sleep next to this girl in his current state. Things might happen, and this idiot would not stop him. Your mother might want to stay in town a little longer. She told me to tell you. She said, father won't agree to Lara staying here, Victor said, tilting his head to look at his little sister who was secretly inspecting him. I will work something out. Tell her not to worry, I will talk to father, now I just need some sleep. He said as he yawned, then buried his head in his pillow and closed his eyes, seemingly falling asleep. Lily wanted to ask him what he did yesterday, but seeing his tired face, she decided not to. After gently covering her young master, she dragged the reluctant Lara out with Alex. Not forgetting to take his crumbled shirt with her. To wash it. Where did you go yesterday? Lily asked Alex just as the room's door closed. Alex blushed and looked away, not answering. A brothel, Lily whispered, not letting Lara hear it. Alex hesitated for a second, then nodded, confirming Lily's guess. What did he do there causing him to be this tired? She asked with concern and a little tiny bit of jealousy. I don't know, Alex decided to answer truthfully after hearing Lily's concerned tone. Don't get me wrong, he left me with the girls and went secretly out for a swim. He returned at dawn looking like this. she explained after some thought, watching as Lily sighed in relief. I see, I will take Miss Lara back to the villa. Keep the young master safe, Lily said as she dragged Lara, who was busy eavesdropping, out of the suite. She didn't intend to ask about anything else. Not now anyway, she believed in her young master. But sometimes, she wondered why the hell did he need to do all those secretive things all the time. Can't he just tell her? She would be more than pleased to serve him. Today, she just had the very strange feeling that he was avoiding looking directly at her. No, that's impossible, this must be her imagination. Ellipsis. Calvin returned home at noon. He was a little concerned about his wife and his future nightlife. What kind of pill did his evil grandson feed him? It took 3 girls and 7 hours to satisfy him. He was not annoyed, just a little bit scared of himself. Damn it, he cursed as he walked into a hallway and suddenly stopped as he noticed that Lara was sneaking somewhere with her little maid. What was her name? Elle. Never mind. He silently followed, wondering what those 2 brats were up to. They stopped in the backyard, and after turning around and making sure no one was around, Lara began to speak. I am sorry that I didn't believe you before, Elle. I saw it with my eyes today, she said. He flew? Elle asked excitedly. He passed through the window like a ghost and then flew away. Then there were some big explosions in the distance. He is just like those heroes in movies, she said. I told you. Did he teach you how? Elle asked. No, he refused, though he promised to teach me after the ceremony. But that will be a couple of years later. And told me not to tell anyone, she explained. Then why did you tell me? Elle asked as she flinched with concern. You are not anyone, you are Elle, and you already know, Lara said with a little mischievous smile. And you will not tell anyone, she added. Elle nodded quickly, as if fearing something. The girls then began to speak about some random little girls' things. Lara began to talk about her esteemed brother's muscles, and how his skin was very white. Elle was nodding with sparkling eyes. Calvin was not interested in his Brocon granddaughter's fantasies, so he made his way back to the living room where that veiled maid Lily was talking to his daughter. The young master had told me that he would talk with his esteemed father. He might let you stay here for a while, but he might have other arrangements for Miss Lara, Lily said. Nothing unexpected, but it's better this way. I don't want Lara back at the island anytime soon, as I keep having an ominous feeling that something bad might happen there. It's a mother's intuition, Elena said before noticing her father's shadow by the door. Father, welcome back. I am pleased that you remembered that you have a house around here. How was your test? She asked him with an annoyed voice when she noticed him enter the room. A success, he said as he coughed a little. How is your mother? He asked. Why don't you go and ask her yourself? Oh, maybe we shouldn't let you near her, Elena said as she glared at him. Her mother told her things. Nasty things. I will go and talk to her later, he said as his phone rang, saving him from a very embarrassing conversation. Looking at the number, he quickly headed to the study where he activated a special jammer and then answered. Calvin is here. This line is secure. General, there was an accident in your town. Is this your doing? His subordinate voice hesitatingly said. What? No. What happened? Calvin asked. An hour ago, there was a terrorist attack on the highway. 2 cars were blown up. Our analysis points to Victor von Weiss as the culprit, your grandson, right? Anyway, he is the only known terrorist in town and some of our men saw him talk to the victim in the morning, his subordinate said, making Calvin open his mouth in surprise. Victim? Did anyone die? 7 people from the Sue family. They are on the green list, and one of them is on the black list. The answer came. Is there any evidence? Calvin asked. None. Today is very weird as most of the cameras in town are out of order. We traced it back to some strange activity in your hotel. But we couldn't get our men in, and we ignored it as it was a party hosted by your family. We believed this was a special operation, the subordinate explained, making Calvin suddenly remember. Yes, there was something like that about a VIP, but he was too busy in the morning and didn't care about that. No, it wasn't. What happened at the party? Calvin asked in concern. We don't know. About 20 people died for sure as we saw the body bags getting transported out. Some guards' legs were broken and many people headed to the hospitals with their fingers bitten off by dogs, very esteemed dogs according to their testimonies. General, you should probably ask your sons what happened then tell us, the subordinate said with some embarrassment. I will see what I can do. Tell the other generals to prepare a meeting. I might have some new info, Calvin said as he hung up and looked out of the window. He was a little in shock. What the FCK happened today when he was at that brothel? Chapter 180. A New Day. The next morning, Victor woke up at about 10 a.m., he had slept a lot and was feeling much better. He was no longer dizzy and was sure he could control his impulses way better. He tested them by imagining Lily in a very exotic pose. Oops, no, he was not completely healed yet, he sighed as he ran to the bathroom. This would take time. After taking a cold shower to calm his nerves a little, he began to check on his girls. He was worried about sending them to the dungeon without sufficient training. But he had reasons for that. If the girls were to enter the dungeons after years of training, they would end up with generic classes like warrior or archer. But now, with them fresh out of the brothel and wanting to forge a new future away from their past, their classes would reflect both their past and their lookout to the future. Most of them would have things suitable for intelligence gathering works. The girls were now resting and preparing to raid the boss. Alpha was giving them a crash course in boss battles with the assistance of Margaret and the twins, who were the only ones there who witnessed a real boss battle among the group. Alpha, although had the knowledge of her ancestors, she was still a noob, as the only boss battle she witnessed was that poor boss spider being drowned and poisoned by Victor. Victor nodded. The girls' progress was on schedule. Thankfully there were no casualties. Just a few random injuries which were treated by that new healer girl. They didn't even need to use the healing pills he gave them. Hopefully, they would be able to survive the boss battle safely. Victor quickly changed to another blood slave, Tom. He was at school. Oh, today was a school day. Never mind. Victor shook his head. His existence there was just for shows. In fact, the members of the top powers and oligarchy have only one goal for attending the academies around the world. And it was not learning or forging friendships like the official narrative wants the world to believe. It is simple to crush the other students and let them realize the difference between the aristocratic families and the commoners. Between full players and semi-players. And even between players and the unawakened, players get automatically accepted, while the unawakened who attend the academy has to be the best of the best. The academy was created not only as a place of training the players of commoner origins, but also as a place to brainwash them into knowing their place in the world's hierarchy. Even the commoner teachers have to respect the elites like him. So not attending was okay for Victor and his cronies, but other students would be severely punished if they missed even a day. It is a very important lesson. Life is not fair. Tom was at the moment salivating at the new pretty transfer student, Lynn, who chose to attend the academy today, probably to be next to Victor, who at the moment was frowning as he didn't like the way Tom looked at Lynn, so he quickly issued a warning through the system that this girl was the sister of Linda, Victor's fiancée. Unfortunately, that didn't deter Tom, who kept giving her glances every now and then. He was even having some dirty thoughts about her with Linda on his bed. The system warned him again that she would kick his ass after school if he kept looking at her like that. He frowned for a moment but still didn't listen. It seems like as long as the system didn't punish him, he would keep getting cocky. Victor sighed as he decided to give him a lesson on system credibility. He didn't want to use the system to order him to stay away from her, as that might make him begin doubting it. He had a better way. Victor quickly communicated with Lynn, who was a little upset that he was not at school today as she had dressed up, especially for him. "Husband, why are you not here today?" she asked, sounding a little upset. "I had to go visit my mother's family. You should have told me, I really missed you." He professionally put the blame on her. "Ah, I wanted to surprise you. My family had accepted your condition of a double wedding," she said. "Really? Damn, I should have been at school today," he complained, making her smile sweetly, capturing the hearts of all the guys who were looking at her perversely in class and earning themselves a punishment from the slightly jealous teacher Isabella. "As long as you come to see me tomorrow I will forgive you," she said, pouting. "Of course, I will. Ah, by the way, I want to warn you about a certain guy in class, the one named Tom." "The black-haired hot guy in the front," Victor quickly said. "The one the teacher keeps looking at. Is he banging her?" she asked, looking at Tom with a scowl that didn't discourage him from turning back every now and then to glance in her direction. "Yes, he is a womanizer. The poor teacher already fell for him after he touched her ass once. And he is probably having some impure thoughts about you. I want you to teach him a lesson," Victor said, making her feel a little disgusted and confirming Victor's guess that Tom's fate had minimal effect on his blood slaves. "No problem." Lynn didn't mind testing her strength. "After leaving class, he would surely follow you. Take him to an isolated area and kick his ass, but keep it private and don't kill him or cause any permanent injury. Just let him know his place and tell him that you are only mine," he ordered her, making her smile again as her heart raced. She said with a blushing face, that her classmates didn't understand. Now I have to go, take care of yourself. He said. You too, she said bashfully. Victor quickly broke the connection as his nose began to bleed. He ran again to the bathroom. Damn this soul injury. After a second shower, Victor relaxed as he took out some clothes from his ring. Yesterday he left his shirt on purpose for Lily to take it. He was sure she sniffed it a few times to make sure no girls touched it. Too bad she didn't realize yet that Alex was a girl too. After that, he took his phone and called his father. Victor, are you still in that stupid waterfall town? Theodore answered after a few rings. He seemed to be in a good mood. Yes, I wanted to try their brothel. I must have overtaxed myself. Victor confessed. That's normal. Back in the day, I took my friends on an expedition around the continent, where we tried most of the brothels and got so many unique diseases that we had to use an advanced healing pill to cure them all. Ah, that brings back memories. Theodore recalled. Anyway, I wanted to tell you that the Von Rosens have given their answer. They would accept a double wedding. You have to go and propose to the new girl though. Her name is Lynn, Amelia's illegitimate daughter. I will do that tomorrow, when I return, Victor said. After that, you must go to New Lure City and propose to that Nova girl. You must convince them about the double wedding yourself though. When I mentioned it to them they were hesitant. And may demand some benefits. You deal with it, Theodore said. If you fail you can marry Lynn first, then that slut Nova after a month or two. He added, I will convince them. I am calling you about my mother. She wants to stay here for a few more days. Her mother had an accident, Victor said and could hear Theodore's sigh from the other side. You know that I can't let Lara stay there, and I don't want to leave her on the island without her mother's protection. Your stepmothers might be a little mean sometimes. Theodore said, how about you keep Lara with me, I will train her and I think it would be better if we sent her to a school. She needs to learn some social skills sooner or later. Keeping her sheltered is not good. Victor suggested. I know, but I already tried that with Alice. She went to a damn all-girls boarding school and grew up to be a huge slut. Do you know how many lovers your elder sister has? 107. She has a fucking underground arena where she makes them fight for the right to court her. Even the fiancé the family chose for her was scared to propose. Do you want Lara to end up like that? Theodore asked. Victor could hear the annoyance in his voice. No, Victor suppressed his laugh as he continued, but that's way better than a naive girl that might be scammed by some dustbag someday. Don't you remember what happened to my cousin Paulina? Uncle Patrick didn't allow her to even glimpse at men other than her family. So she ended up falling for the 40-year-old gardener who scammed her to steal one of the family's secret training manuals, Victor explained. That girl was only 16 when she ran away with her fake lover and ended up almost dead if not for the family agents saving her life. Too bad the family ordered her death for breaking the rules. Theodore was ordered to deliver the sentence. That's why he had a very edgy relationship with his brother. That was what they showed the world anyway. Victor only later learned that Theodore helped his brother and niece by faking her death. Unfortunately, the family discovered this, or they will 2 years from now, thanks to some idiot. Then they would kill her for real and punish Patrick and Theodore by demoting them. Victor should probably go give her a visit, before she falls for that second idiot who would scam her again. That will not happen to her, probably. Lara is a sensible girl. Theodore hesitated. How about we let her try it for 1 semester, we will watch her secretly, if she gets off track we would pull her back for some education, Victor proposed. Oh, do you have a suitable school in mind? Theodore asked, halfway convinced. Yes, there is an aristocratic boarding school near Vane City. How about we let her go there? We will start with letting her attend from my mansion, then we will allow her to live there once she is ready. Victor proposed. That might work. What about your mother? Are you comfortable with leaving her with those idiots she calls family? George told me some nasty things about them. Theodore asked. Don't worry, once they learned their place, they wouldn't dare to harm her. How about you leave her here until Luna gives birth? They can both return to the island after that, and the clean air around the waterfall is very beneficial for pregnant women. Victor proposed, making Theodore's eyes shine. If he left Luna here with Elena he can make them bond before they go back to the island, earning both of them an ally to confront his other wives whom he long knew had already formed a team against Elena out of jealousy. And that would give him more free time. He had to accompany Luna a lot these days and he had an AHM business party to attend. Fine, I will ask George to arrange things. I will wait for your news about the proposal. Theodore said as he hung up. Victor smiled as he put the phone away, then opened the door. He walked into the suite's living room where Alex was singing out of tune as she prepared some breakfast that didn't look edible. This suite had a private kitchen for super VIPs who can't order food for security reasons. "Good morning, young master," she said with a smile. "What are you doing?" Victor asked. Nothing," Alex replied flusteredly, as Victor inspected some dark things that used to be eggs at some level of their evolution. "What pig are you going to feed these to?" he asked. "They were for why, they are just tests for preparing some energy-enhancing drugs for my training." She quickly corrected herself, she was a little ashamed of her cooking. "Oh, we have no time for that. Go get dressed. A man should not be wearing a pink apron, you almost made me assault you from behind." Victor scolded, making her heart skip a beat. "We have to go buy a house," he added. "A house?" she asked as she took off her apron with a blush and then stored it in her ring. "Yes, mother intends to stay here, so I have to go shopping for a house and some gifts for the girls," Victor said when suddenly someone knocked on the suite's door. Victor looked at the door then smiled evilly. "Alex, we have important guests. Go open the door," he said as he sat on a sofa casually, reassuming his arrogant young master pose.